everywhere you turn. There are vultures and thieves at your back. The storm keeps on twisting. Keep on building lies that you make up for all you lack. It don't make no difference. Escape one last time. It's easier to believe from this sweet madness or this glorious sadness that brings me to my knees in the arms of an angel. Fly away from here, from this dark hotel room and the airlessness that you feel. You are pulled from the wreckage of your silent reverie here in the arms of the angels. May you find some comfort here.
happened to our council members? Well, yeah. Are they right out there? Steve will show up. Reconvene the meeting of May 22nd, 2012. Roll call.
The record will reflect that everyone is present.
Do we have a closed session report?
We have no closed session report this evening, Mayor Gardner.
Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Councilman Mike Henn, and remain standing for the invocation by Ms. Lynda Robison of the Second Church of Christ Scientists.
Please join me in the salute to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to share a poem by Henry Baker. The King of love my shepherd is, whose goodness faileth never. I nothing lack, for I am his, and he is mine forever. Where streams of living water flow, my ransomed soul he leadeth, and where the verdant pastures grow, with food celestial feedeth. Perverse and foolish off I strayed, but yet in love he sought me, and on his shoulder gently laid, and home rejoicing brought me. And so through all the length of days thy goodness faileth never, Good Shepherd, may I sing thy praise within thy house forever.
Thank you. We have presentations. Our first is OPIS Network's Helping 100 Businesses for 100 Days award winner.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members of Newport Beach. My name is Norm Bour. I'm the Community Development Director for OPIS Network. And you might know that we did a second program with you that just finished up a few weeks ago called Helping 100 Businesses for 100 Days. I wish we could say that we were turning the entire economy around within the city of Newport Beach, but such is not the case. But we did make a little difference to a number of people. So on behalf of OPIS Network, we wanted to thank you for allowing us to support your city and certainly your business community. And I wanted to call up one of the winners, actually the winner. As we went through the program, our final exam consists of a business owner coming to the front of the room and doing a presentation and sharing everything she's learned over the 100 days. And Nora Eastman is the winner. She is in the art business, and I'd like to bring her forward so we can publicly accommodate her. Nora? So this is it, and if we can get a photo of her, that would be awesome, so that she can make it known that she has been the recipient.
Do you want it now or after she's spoken?
Are you speaking? I think that would be a bow.
Looks like the next class is Toastmasters.
And we again, we want to thank you, and we hope that we can continue our business relationship with the city of Newport Beach.
Oh, sure. I work for Miriam Smith at Art Resource Group, and we're an art advisory and appraisal company here in Newport Beach. And the program just really gave us a great opportunity to get some objective advice on how we present ourselves as a business. Miriam's been in business for 25 years, but Norm and Opus really encouraged us to reach out to our clientele and find out what we're doing right and, you know, where we can help people more, and it really gave us a chance to add some value to our services. So we're really grateful to the city to have sponsored this program, and thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
And now we have a presentation to recognize Brian Moore, Deputy District Engineer with the Army Corps of Engineers, Los Angeles District, for his many years of service. If he would come forward.
I didn't see Brian here either. I don't know if he's traveling, come from a long way. Do you have the proclamation now?
I do have
Okay.
the proclamation.
Well, maybe just read it and we'll send it on up to him.
Yes. It says that whereas Brian Moore has been a mainstay of the Los Angeles District Corps of Engineers for the past 41 years, and for the past 24 years was responsible for the programs and project management function for the LA District. He's provided timely guidance for the three most recent Newport Beach federally funded projects: Upper Newport Bay Ecosystem Project, Lower Newport Bay Dredging, and the Newport Groin Field Sand Renourishment. He has personally made himself available to meet with city council members and city staff to update and offer guidance, has been a strong advocate of the Newport Beach regional approach for implementation of projects, and has played a crucial role in supporting the city's efforts for obtaining congressional funding for the Upper Newport Bay project, and also been helpful in providing guidance to attain federal funding for the Lower Bay Newport dredging. So obviously, Brian Moore has been a great asset to the city in his role as part of the Army Corps of Engineers.
Well, I'll just add on to that. I don't think we could have succeeded as much as we did on our harbor project without Brian's dedication both to the work that the Corps does, the civil engineering that it does, and securing funding, and I think having an affinity towards us and our projects, and hopefully be able to watch this on tape and know how much we appreciated his time with the Corps.
All right, notice to the public.
The city provides a yellow sign-in card to assist in the preparation of the minutes. The completion of the card is not required in order to address the city council. Speakers must limit comments to 5 minutes on agenda items. The city council has the discretion to extend or shorten the time limit on agenda or non-agenda items. As a courtesy, please turn cell phones off or set them in the silent mode. Now is the time for council announcements or matters which council members would like placed on a future agenda for discussion, action, or report.
Councilman Hill.
I would like to make a brief announcement that through my role in Choose Hogue, Choose Nursing, actually Choose Nursing, Choose Hogue, I've become aware that May is designated as the National Nurse Month, and Hogue Hospital has announced their annual selection of their nurse of the year, and that's Ruth Ann Marquez. And Ruth has worked in the interventional radiology unit where she is the unit practice chair. And she's been there for 5 years, and she certainly is a perfect example of the nursing staff at Hogue that goes beyond, above and beyond the needs to deliver very high-quality patient care. On behalf of the city, I would like to congratulate Ruth and acknowledge how important and her peers are to the success of Hogue Hospital and its major role in playing a part of the quality of life that we all have the opportunity of enjoying here in Newport Beach. And I assume that not everyone is aware that Hogue Hospital is also a leader in nurse training, and the Choose Nursing, Choose Hogue Task Force has raised over $16 million since its creation in 2004. Their purpose to recruit, educate, and retain nursing staff. And the Marion Knott Nursing Center on Hogue's Newport Beach campus has played a major role and works in concert with local universities, both public and private, in delivering high-end nurse training. And I would encourage all of Newport Beach citizens to become involved with Hogue and help continue to spur the excellence of this very important Newport Beach family member. Thank you.
Councilman Rosansky.
Yes, I have one item. Last Monday, I attended a meeting of the Orange County Transportation Authority Board of Directors where they had the 19th Street Bridge on their agenda. They were the agenda item was with regard to an appeal of their action to remove the 19th Street Bridge off the master plan of arterial highways. After I spoke and Dave Webb and Leonie Mulvihill of the city attorney's office spoke, the board discussed the matter and agreed to suspend their action for 6 months to allow the cities to try and work out some type of an agreement with regard to mitigation so that the bridge could be removed, but that the traffic situation that removal of the bridge will leave will be hopefully remediated by other mitigation measures. So at this point in time, the bridge is still on the map, and we're moving forward with OCTA and our sister cities to try and resolve this matter. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Curry.
Well, it's been a busy couple of weeks. I was privileged to participate in the Orange County Tourism Council meeting, which was held right here at Newport Beach. Tourism is a primary industry for Orange County, and a particularly important one for those of us in our city. It really does help drive our economy, and I was pleased to see all the steps being taken by many of the major attractions, hotels, and restaurants to promote tourism. I also had a chance to walk through the Coastline Community College building that's under construction. I think that's going to be a great asset to the community and a marvelous new venue for events here in Newport Beach. And I also attended the Library Distinguished Speakers Series with Henn, who has written recently a book on Google and also Greed and Glory on Wall Street back in the 80s, a noted author. And people should know that every couple of weeks, our library features internationally renowned speakers and authors, and it really turns out a great crowd. It's a marvelous program, and I encourage you to look into it and take advantage of it. As most of you know, this was Relay for Life weekend, and the council critters were there. Many of my colleagues on the council, Mayor Gardner, Councilmember Henn, Councilmember Selich, turned out for another great event, but also people from throughout the city. The Blue Crew was there from the police, the fire department had a team, the city slickers were there representing our miscellaneous employees. Newport Beach really came together in this event, as they do every year, to fight cancer, and I just want to commend everybody who came out to make that event the success that it is. On Saturday, I was privileged to be able to speak briefly and welcome folks to Newport Beach for the Field of Honor. Our Exchange Club puts this on. This is the third year in a row, 1,776 flags in Castaways Park. What a great tribute to our fighting men and women doing Armed Forces Week. And, of course, I was joined there by Mayor Gardner and Councilmember Henn and Councilmember Selich and Councilmember Hill as well. And a great community response in support of our troops. And then finally, this is Taiwanese American Heritage Week, and last night I was able to represent the city in Irvine for a cultural program by our Taiwanese citizens. There are many Taiwanese in Newport Beach, and of course we congratulate them as they celebrate this week.
Councilwoman Daigle?
Yes. Well, Newport Beach is renowned for our varied natural resources and our financial strength. We've also been recognized for our city planning. And one of our former planning commissions, Barry Eaton, he was recognized by the Orange County chapter of the American Planning Association for his post-retirement community volunteer work for the city. He has had a distinguished 35-year career in planning in both the public and private sector. And when he came to the Planning Commission, we were the beneficiary of all that experience. And so he spent, I believe, 8 years on the commission. And what one of the things that the awards jury noted about his contributions is that many of these contributions for the city have also been recognized by APA, specifically the city's coastal land use plan that won the Orange County Section and State APA Comprehensive Planning Awards in 2006, and also our general plan update. It was a tremendous undertaking in 2006 and approved by our voters, and that won Orange County Section, State, and National APA Awards in 2007 and 2008. So congratulations to Barry Eaton and for the work of our Planning Commission and our citizens and our planning staff over the years to make this just a very well-planned city. So thank you.
Councilman Henn?
I have nothing.
Councilman Selich?
Yes, Sunday, June 3rd is the Balboa Island Parade. It's one of the events we have to start the summer season. It's from 11 o'clock in the morning to 2 o'clock in the afternoon. A lot of floats are going to be there, and bands and different marching units. It's a great community event, and I think most, if not all, the city council members will be in the parade riding in cars. So come on out to the Balboa Island Parade. That's Sunday, June 3rd, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Thank you. On May 30th, we will have the opening of the Buck Gully Trail. Come out at Poppy and 5th at the trailhead. There'll be refreshments and a docent-led hike. And you can RSVP at tcraig, C-R-A-I-G, at newportbeachca.gov. Then on Saturday, June 2nd, the Crone MR 5K. And this is, I don't mean to brag just because it's my district, but it seems to me like this is the premier 5K in the city. Lots of fun. It's a tough course. There's some good hills there, but it's very scenic since we open and close on Ocean Boulevard, and there's always a great meal afterwards, although who wants to eat after running and sweating, I don't know, but people seem to. Okay, Councilman Rosansky, good. And then look in the mail for the Newport Navigator. This is whether you are 3 years old or 30 or, 90. This has programs for you because our recreation department puts on so many great things. So be sure and check this out. You'll have lots to do this summer just through this catalog. Okay, consent calendar.
All matters listed under consent calendar, items 1 through 15, are considered to be routine and will all be enacted by one motion in the form listed below. Council members have received detailed staff reports on each of the items recommending an action. There will be no separate discussion of these items prior to the time the City Council votes on the motion unless members of the City Council, staff, or the public request specific items to be discussed and or removed from the consent calendar for separate action. Members of the public who wish to discuss a consent calendar item should come forward to the lectern upon invitation by the mayor and state their name and item number. If the optional sign-in card has been completed, it should be placed in the box provided at the podium.
Councilwoman Daigle?
I have none.
Councilman Henn?
None for me.
Councilman Selich?
No items.
Councilman Hill?
No items.
Councilman Rosansky?
Item number 5, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Curry?
No items?
And I have 4 and 14. Staff, do you have any?
No, you got 14. If
Yes.
you were gonna...
All right, is there any member of the public would like to remove something from the consent calendar?
Mayor Gardner, my name is Jim Mosher. In addition to those mentioned, number 6 and number 15.
15?
Yes, the last one, number 15,
Okay.
and number 6.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Move the adoption of the consent calendar with the exceptions of items number 4, 5, 6, 14, and 15.
Second.
It's not turning. Prior to reading the vote, I have to read the ordinance title, but it's not coming up. Hold on one moment. Oh, my item has disappeared. There it is. An ordinance of the city, for item 3, ordinance number 2012-12, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Newport Beach repealing Chapter 10.62 of the Newport Beach Municipal Code pertaining to vehicle address solicitation. Item 4 has been pulled. With that, the motion carries unanimously.
All right. I pulled number 4, the Healthy Eating, Active Living campaign. This was sort of a coincidence because I said to our city manager last week, have we thought about doing something, sort of a health thing for employees? And he said, funny, you should ask. And I just want to commend the staff who worked on this because I think it's a terrific program. And also, not just because, okay, they get to work out or do more exercise or eat a little bit better, but it's also good for the city. The healthier our employees are, the better off in many ways for the city. So thank you to the staff for working on this. I look forward to all the great results we'll see from it. With that, I myself will move the item.
Second.
Please vote.
Public comment, if you have any?
Oh, I'm sorry, public comment. All right, please vote.
Prior to reading the vote, I'll read the resolution title for item 4, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Newport Beach to become a healthy eating, active living, heal city. With that, the motion carries unanimously.
All right, item 5, Councilman Rosansky.
Yeah, I'd like a little bit of a report from staff with regard to the changes that are being proposed to this contract. I guess we're about a year into it now, and the results weren't exactly as expected, and it seems like we're compromising our contractual position a little bit, and I just want to get some justification for that.
Absolutely. Tracy McCraner, Finance Director. We have been working with CPS for about a year now. About 6 months ago, CPS approached the city and asked us to look at the actual ending revenue for 2011, last fiscal year, which is when we entered into the agreement, and maybe consider rearranging the complicated payment structure that we had at that time, because the actual year-end revenue for 2011 came in significantly lower than we had budgeted. We had budgeted 3.5, and we actually received just a little over $3 million. That was the first year that some significant meter rates went into effect, so it was the first real year that we were able to identify what the true impact of those rate increases were. And it was also a year where we had unseasonably very cold weather through almost the entire year, from the summer that started that fiscal year all the way to the spring. So we did end up getting significantly lower revenue, and because of that, CPS had asked us to consider maybe looking at the structure where we were originally going to get paid $3 million up front, and then they would get the next 1.1, almost 1.2 million. And in looking at that contract, and we spent several months talking about it, we really came to the conclusion that CPS had really come through on all 4 of the major goals that we had identified through the RFP process. They increased our parking meter revenue. They also increased our parking citation revenue, which wasn't our intention, but because of their increased enforcement activity and their diligence, our parking citations, the citations issued almost increased 50%, even though that's not, they don't get any part of the parking citation revenue. They've excelled in customer service. As difficult a transition as this was, we get significantly more positive comments on the CPS ambassadors, even the ticket writers. They will go in and they will go ahead and try to warn people before they write tickets. They put in place all the state-of-the-art equipment that we asked for, and they've basically met all the deadlines and everything. So the only thing that really wasn't coming to fruition was the budget amounts that we both expected. So in looking at the service that they provided and the service that we feel that they have met as far as the RFP proposal, we did agree to relook at the payment terms. They agreed to a reduced operational cost. They originally wanted a little over $800,000 a year. They agreed to $700,000, and we agreed that we would just pay them that cost without the complicated reconciliation, and in turn, the city just keeps 100% of the parking meter revenue. I think some people were concerned, well, if you're just going to pay them, how are you going to incentivize them to continue to perform well and increase revenue? So we left the incentives in. They would get an 11.5% share of any revenues above a limit that we now set at $3.4 million. And then in future years, that percentage can grow. We left those incentives at the same rates as the original contract, and we feel that that will encourage them to continue looking for improvements and better ways of providing service. And so that's where we basically got today, which I do feel and would urge council that this really does benefit both sides and still protects the city, and it helps CPS, who has met their contract obligations with the exception of this payment structure.
And what about the paying off the equipment end of this deal?
That was actually a city request. When we started working with CPS, we had originally asked them to pay for all of the infrastructure that was in the original agreement. They agreed. But when we started looking at the lease agreements that they have, which are typical agreements that they use in their business, we realized that the finance charges and interest charges were a lot higher than the city could have actually received on its own. So since we were already in negotiations to amend the contract, we told them we just want to pay for the equipment outright. For the equipment purchased to date, we'll save about $240,000 on the remainder life of the leases for all the metered equipment, parking vehicles, and any future equipment purchases will be made by the city at the financing that this council so desires.
Okay, well, thank you for the report. I guess I'm a little ambivalent about it just because I remember questioning the representative, who I don't know if he's here tonight. It's all right. They don't need to come up. I do remember questioning the representative. I don't think it was either of the two gentlemen in the audience about this contract last year when we signed it, and they had promised, some rosy projections of revenues and guarantees to the city. And I thought, well, gee, if, we're going to be guaranteed to be in the same position we were before, then why won't we do this? But apparently, a year into this, where projections didn't turn out as rosy as they'd hoped. I thought that they were bearing the risk of that, and apparently now we're going to both bear the risk of it. I agree that, we've lowered their base pay to $700,000 from, I think, a little over $800,000. However, we're also, correct me if I'm wrong, starting the percentage at 3.6 million now? Instead
of 3.4 million.
3.4 million instead of 4.1 million. So, there's 700,000 times 11.5% is basically going to get them back to their $800,000, but we're guaranteeing them their money now, as opposed to, so the risk is on us now as opposed to the risk being on them. And, and I appreciate the fact that they have done an excellent job. I've received really no complaints about it. I think the transition to the new equipment went well. I see revenues are up, which is good, but not up as much, apparently, as they had hoped. I guess as far as the cold summer and all, or that, clearly we're going to have cold summers. If you stay with us, we're going to have cold summers. That happens. We're going to have hot summers, too, and you guys will make a lot more money those years. So, I'll make a motion that we approve this, but I guess, like I said, I'm a little ambivalent about it. It's just, it seems like, we don't want to lose a good operator. It has been a good system. I'm expecting that they'll continue to do the same good job, especially now that we're bearing the risk of this thing as opposed to them. So
Is there
with
a
that, I'll
second?
move the motion.
All right, open this for public comment.
Mayor Gardner and members of the council, my name is Jim Mosher. I had essentially the same comments or confusions as Councilman Rosansky. When we were here a year ago, we heard that we were collecting, our city employees were collecting receipts from the parking meters of about $3.5 million, and it was costing us $500,000 to do that, so we were netting about $3 million. Now, a year later, if I am understanding the report correctly, despite the increase in parking meter rates, we're collecting only $3.6 million, just very much slightly more than we did before. And under the contract, which these gentlemen agreed to a year ago, they would have been paid $600,000, but we are, for some reason now, agreeing to pay them more than $700,000 because they will be in the level where they're actually getting incentives in addition to the flat pay of $700,000. So we're paying more than $700,000 for something that city employees seem to do for $500,000. It's not clear to me that this experiment with outsourcing has been a outstanding success so far. And I'm not sure why we're offering so much incentives, because in addition to what Councilman Rosansky mentioned, or maybe I didn't quite understand what he was saying, we did have, the reason the $3 million was set was that was supposedly what we were netting, and if receipts actually went below that, if we had a really cold season, these people were guaranteeing that we would get the $3 million. We're giving up that guarantee. In addition, the old contract is very hard to understand, but it ran for 7 years, and I think the cost of the new equipment was going to be paid only out of the parking meter revenue, and only if there was enough to actually pay that. And if at the end of the 7 years there hadn't been enough of this rosy projection to pay for the new equipment that was going to bring in all this extra money, these gentlemen were actually going to absorb the cost of the new equipment that had not been paid for. So they're giving up actually two promises and getting a more generous incentive package. So it sounds concerning to me also.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment?
Well, I would agree with Mr. Mosher about the incentives. There was a little gotcha there on the city's part, though, that they would, to the extent that the capital improvements were not, enough money was generated to pay for them in 1 year, which we also elicited at that meeting, and I thought was not clearly set out, that it was going to be rolled forward to future years. It wasn't just going to be lost. And so, assuming that revenues will go up over the long term, they probably would have recouped that anyway. So I don't know that we're losing much there, Jim, with paying for the equipment up front, plus we are saving a significant amount of money with the financing of this. In addition, they are providing ticketing services, and those revenues have substantially increased as part of this as well. So, between the two, we probably are still ahead of where we would have been had we continued to do it on our own. However, as I said, we're now guaranteeing their money as opposed to the risk of being on them. And so I think that is a significant change here, but probably not enough to cancel the contract and look for another vendor. So.
I must be. I thought 24% was a pretty good increase. I'd be happy with that if I could get that on my most investments.
Madam Mayor, one further comment, too. Contracting out is not always about the bottom line, per se. Sometimes it's about convenience to the customer. And I do think the rapidity with which CPS went to replace the meters to a much more convenient system, that would have taken us years to do, and we may have not done it correctly, but now we've got the best meters out there, the best way that someone can pay, not have to worry about feeding coins. They can use the credit card, they can use the phone. It was also about that. It was about trusting, in this case, a vendor that had a proven track record in providing good service to the customer.
And we've seen that. We also did privatize the service that we're using city employees, and we don't have the pension liabilities and things like that to worry about going forward. So there are some hidden benefits there as well.
All right. Please vote.
Motion carries unanimously.
All right. Item number 6, Mr. Mosher.
Yes, Mayor Gardner and members of the council, my name is Jim Mosher. This item has to do with amending an agreement that we had made with a vendor called BONTERRA for preparing the environmental impact report for the Newport Banning Ranch. And I had to start with a slightly indelicate matter, which I hope I can say in a way that's not offensive. Councilman Hill, to his great credit, when this matter was before, well, I need to back up. The money that we're talking about here is developer money that is the city is using to prepare a report for us. And among the developers is ExxonMobil. And when the matter was before the EQAC committee, to his credit, Councilman Hill recused himself. And the interest might be very remote, but we do have a policy, A16, that it's at least supposed to be announced when such things happen. So I'm wondering if there is still a concern about voting on this or acknowledging that there is a remote connection. And beyond that, my concern with this contract is the California Constitution, everything that's in here.
Mr. Mosier, if I might interrupt you. I think you are right. I think I do have a conflict of interest on this, and I will recuse myself at this point in time.
Okay, thank you.
I do own stock of a significant amount in one of those companies, and I'm not even sure which one myself.
Okay. Yeah, I have a number of problems with this. One of them, as with many contracts that I've seen here, what city staff is asking for is payment for services that were already completed by this company. And I am not a lawyer, so I don't always get this right, but it bothers me that there's a provision that applies to all local governments, including charter cities, in the California Constitution. It's Article 11, Section 10A, that says that a local government body may not grant extra compensation or extra allowance to a contractor after service has been rendered or a contract has been entered into and performed in whole or in part. That bothers me because we're giving extra compensation to somebody for service that has already been rendered. And it sounds to me like it's a problem. The additional problem I have is that we're funneling $250,000 of Councilman Hill and the other stockholders' money into a company, BONTERRA, that to date has done really a poor job of what we want them to do. They've produced an environmental impact report that, according to the CEQA guidelines, is supposed to be something that is useful to the public to understand the impacts of the project. And instead, we got 1,432 pages of bureaucratese, or whatever you would call it, very densely written stuff that really nobody understands very well. And it's so confusing that nobody seems to really understand if such things as the 19th Street Bridge are included in the traffic analysis and things of that sort. They also are wanting money for their participation in public meetings. They were notably absent from all the meetings that I was at, except for one single study session of the Planning Department, or Planning Commission at a study session. I think there's a problem giving the money to them, and I realize, and Mr. Harp is going to probably point out, many of our contracts have a provision in them saying that this is the limit on what we're going to spend unless the city authorizes additional expenditures. But this seems to me it's kind of like the matter we had about the cover at the Big Canyon Reservoir, where somebody on the city staff said, okay, we're going to waive our guarantee that we have on this. I don't see anything in the staff report that authorized the written authorization that our contract may have required for going beyond what was the original scope of services. And so I don't know if we're just doing business by handshake and a gentleman's agreement, and then the city council has to make good on it, or quite what we're doing here. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, please? Councilman Daigle?
I would just make the comment, I was looking over the item, that there's 158 comment letters that the consultant needed to respond to, and many of them with a degree of complexity that takes time to analyze and to respond appropriately and accurately. So perhaps in the future they can itemize their proposal in a different way when we really always can't anticipate how many comment letters we're going to have. But I saw that. I thought that merits an adjustment. And then it seems to indicate, though, that they were attending some public hearings as well, so I'd appreciate clarification on that. And then additionally, there was a program that was not originally planned for, a monitoring and reporting program. So it's in the public's interest that these things are done appropriately, and so the professionals that prepare it need to be compensated. So I don't see in any way that this proposal is unreasonable.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, please.
Mayor Gardner, Honorable Council, my name is Steve Ray, Executive Director of the Banning Ranch Conservancy. I would submit that if the goal from the beginning on the city's part, on the applicant's part, and on the consultant's part were to do a first-class job on an EIR, then there wouldn't be all of those comments to the responses. I heard somebody, a fairly responsible person, say that, well, it's that darn conservancy. Those people over there are just nitpicking that thing to death and creating a lot of issues and, running up the bill for the EIR. Well, the truth of the matter is, if a good job had been done from the beginning, we wouldn't be able to nitpick it so easily and find so many egregious errors in it that need to be fixed. That's one issue. Second issue is that some of these items that are in here, like the mitigation monitoring program, the factual findings, all of that is a standard part of this process, and I don't know why those things aren't accounted for in the beginning. It makes it look like that, that the city or the consultants are not in control of the process. If I were the consultant or if I were the developer, I would not be real happy with this process because they're the ones paying the tab in the end. But I would just, again, submit that if you do the job right in the first place, if you do a quality job, you don't have to worry about all this blowback coming back. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment?
Move approval of the item.
I would just clarify, I found the answer to it myself, that in response to the comment that they didn't attend public meetings, part of the proposed billing is for future meetings. So thank you.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any other discussion? Please vote.
With Councilmember Hill recusing himself, the motion carries 6-0.
All right, item number 14 I pulled, but I believe staff has a report as well.
We're going to go ahead and make a presentation on this. This is the Special Event Advisory Committee, or SEAC, support recommendations. And I believe Tara Finnegan will take the lead on that. Assistant City Manager Smith also worked on this project.
I can go ahead and get started. Good evening, Mayor Gardner, members of the council. Tonight my presentation will be brief. I'm going to go over the process that we followed this year to put the recommendations together and some of the work that went into the recommendations as well. We follow a multi-step process when we form the recommendations, and the work really begins with our Special Events Advisory Committee, the committee we nicknamed SEAC. Dave, could you hand me that? Thanks. It's okay. We did a call for applications in late December this year. Reached out to many community groups, those that applied last year, advertised it as best we could, promoted it. And after the deadline of February 15th passed, we had 15 applications in front of us from 14 different organizations asking for about $500,000 in city support for community events. The SEAC committee individually reviewed all of the applications, and then they held two public meetings on March 29th and April 2nd. And in each meeting, the committee gave the applicants an opportunity to present an overview of their event. It was also a chance for the committee members to ask questions and kind of drill down on some of the areas of the applications where they had some questions and needed clarification. The applications were then scored. We combined and averaged those scores and developed a ranking. The highest score, of course, number 1 on down. And then the SEAC committee did something different this year. They stopped at that point and deliberated on the rankings as a whole. They took a look at that body of work, at that list, and talked about whether or not, when they saw it in front of them, if that was truly in their minds how the list should fall. And they ended up moving one event higher on the list. That was the Newport to Ensenada event. They moved it one step higher. The next step is for staff to become involved. At this point, the city manager gives staff a pot of money that he's identified in the proposed fiscal year, the new fiscal year budget. This year, Dave set aside $180,000. So our task was then to take that $500,000 in requests and somehow whittle that down in a fair way, as best we could, to the 180 target. And this year, because SEAC really emphasized those rankings, we looked at the rankings and we came up with a system of applying a percentage of the support requested according to how the event ranked. Went through multiple scenarios and finally determined that choosing events 1 through 10 and giving a percentage was the best way to distribute that money. You have that spreadsheet in your packet, but just quickly for the audience tonight, events number 1 and 2, the boat parade and the film festival, we recommended funding at 70%. Race for the Cure and the Spirit Run at 50%. The Balboa Island Parade and the Christmas Walk at 30%. 4 events at 10%, Taste of Newport, Harbor Heritage Run, Restaurant Week, and the Newport to Ensenada Yacht Race. And we had 5 events that we're recommending not funding this year. All told, it's $180,560 in recommended support for 10 community events. And before I close, I just want to say a special thank you to our committee, Paul Blank and Judy and Jeff. Janice Dinwiddie is here this evening, and Vicki from Visit Newport and Marshall Topping, and of course Dana beside me. A lot of work and effort goes into this. It's not an easy job, and they take it on, and we would not be here without their help and their guidance in this. And that concludes my report.
Councilman Rosansky?
Yeah, I'm looking down the list here, and so there was no evaluation made as to what the ask was? I mean, just they asked whatever they wanted, and then they were put in a category, and then we just gave them that percentage basis? Is that how that was done?
There is, in the criteria that we established, they can't ask for more than, I believe it's 25% of their total event budget. So there is a limit on that end.
But there's no relationship to what they've received in the past. All right, well, I guess what I'm kind of homing in on is number 4. It seems like Spirit Run got $14,000 last year. They asked for more than 4 times that, and so they got half, which is still double what they had last year. And it's a great. I'm sure it's a great event, but I don't really support doubling theirs. And while I guess 9 others have their budgets reduced from year to year because they asked for amounts that were probably more similar to what they'd received in the past. And even then, some of them asked for more, but so.
Okay. I'll preface my comments because I would like to see this, after we're through with our budgets, come back in a study session, because the longer I have been on the council, the less sense this makes.
Yeah.
I don't, and I'll just give you a heads up, I don't know if we should even be in this business. And if so, I think that we need to really give it a hard look. And this is not a criticism of the committee. They went by the guidelines we had given them. But when I look at it, there's such incongruities and there's such inconsistencies, and that's, as I say, that's not the committee's fault. But this isn't all over the place. I mean, I noticed it didn't get funded, but the Hyatt Regency Summer Concert Series, I think when this was created, it was not just, hey, let's give money out. It was probably there were a couple of local events that needed a little assistance, and that was going to be for a short term. And now we've become a permanent part of the budget planning for a lot of these, and I really question that. But that's for another day. That's a heads up that what I would like to see us do. But now what we are doing is going to look at these amounts. Councilwoman Daigle.
Well, I had a question along those lines for the city manager. Do you see a proper role here potentially for Visit Newport, who does have a pretty good budget? And in looking at all these events, it seems as if some of them do attract quite a few visitors.
I think that's a good thing, Councilmember Daigle, to consider in the next round of discussions. We kicked that around during this round and the round previously, and we're not in a relationship with Visit Newport Beach to direct them to do this, so it would be a change in our relationship, and that may be a good thing for the council to talk about overall, because I think they would probably respond and say, well, give us more money to do that, and we'll do that. I'd say that out of respect. I think they run a good organization. I just note, too, before we go any further, I don't think staff's happy with this either, and I'll continue to express that. But remember, 3 years ago or 2 years ago, there were a whole bunch of things that you guys never saw. Staff would waive fees, for instance, for that, and that was just not consistent. So we brought them all together, at least gave them an additional public evaluation and through this process. And you're right, we don't have it correct yet, but hopefully we'll head to that point. But it is all in the open. Everyone gets a fair chance to compete, submit a proposal, make an argument to a fairly unbiased little committee. So,
all right, thank you. Mayor, Councilman Rosansky, did you have something else?
Well, I was just going to I guess I wouldn't take as drastic a position as you have, and that I think that some of the events are worthy of support of the city. I think the city is here to support community events to the extent that they enhance life here in Newport Beach. So I'm not saying
we don't have to discuss that tonight.
Well, that's fine too. I'm not saying to eliminate the expenditures or the allocation of money to events. I agree, though. I don't like the way this is done. I wasn't too keen on the committee to begin with, and the way this was set up. I had no problem fielding these requests myself. I guess I don't know that everybody else shared that view and or staff, but. Again, I would, when we get to it, I don't know if that's the appropriate time. I'd like to make some adjustments in these.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Curry?
Well, I would just echo that. I think some of these events are part of the fabric of the community. We need to continue them, and we need to make sure that they can be successful. But I think the process is one that's flawed and doesn't work. I think the funding allocations are not rational, and I also have some recommendations for some reallocations when we have the opportunity to hear the testimony from the people. And Mayor Gardner, I agree with you that we need to go back and revisit the whole process.
Councilman Hill.
I believe one of the major fallacies or problems with this is that there's not a relationship or a deep enough study of the request versus the need or the appropriateness. I mean, the organizations were ranked, and I think the ranking was very detailed and very official and very well done. And then the lesson learned here, if we weren't to make a change, is just make sure you ask for a lot more next year, and you'll get a lot more. And I think that's one of the inherent problems that we've uncovered as this has evolved. I think we've done a pretty good job of ticking off everyone.
Well, that's one sign of success, I suppose. Councilman Henn.
In that case, it must be a pretty good answer.
Yeah, exactly.
We've got two things here going on. We've got the evaluation work of the Special Events Committee, which I still think was pretty well done and provided a good objective look at each of these and to produce a ranking. And then we've got a rather arbitrary decision about how we allocate funds. Not just how, but how much in total. So, and that's what the city manager is there for. I understand that, but so there's really a couple of problems with this. When we do get to the discussion, the later discussion, I have another thought as well. One of the major items here is the Newport Beach Film Festival. I regard that as a cultural and arts event for the city. We really need in this city a mechanism to fund and support arts and culture here, and it seems to me something like that is better categorized and supported with a programmatic approach that provides for the blossoming and the development of arts and culture in our city. and not just the film festival, but of course arts of all sorts. And so I'd like to see some thinking about that as we talk about all of this going forward. I am as well troubled by just the arbitrary percentage of ask in terms of how we've allocated the funding. And I'll have some views when we get to deciding what's what.
I agree with Councilman Zansky that the amount for the Spirit Run jumped out at me. And for me, it also, if we are going to support things, for me, they should be very local things. And at the risk of getting 1,000 poison pink letters or pink poison pen letters, the Susan G. Komen, it's a wonderful event, but I really question, do they need our funding? That's a very well-funded organization. It's not really local. I know they have a local race. So these are the questions that as we open it to public comment, can be addressed and probably clarify some of our issues. So if you have some questions, we might want to bring them up now so that at public comment they can be responded to. Are there any specific questions? No? Okay. Then we will.
Yeah, I'll ask a question
Steve?
since we're focusing in on the Spirit Run. How did they come so high up in the rankings there? What put them at 50%?
I can't even answer that because each committee member had criteria, and it was pretty well delineated. They scored based on the application and based on the presentation, and then those scores were all averaged. And so at the end of the average, this is where the Spirit Run came out. So clearly, a preponderance of the committee members felt they had a strong application in relation to the criteria.
Did I understand your comment to say that each committee member had their own separate criteria?
No, I did not say that. Each committee member scored based on the application.
Well, what are
and
some of the
presentation.
criteria? Let's delve into that they would have.
I think that's what isn't that a list? We had a list we approved.
Well, I guess I don't remember what the list is.
No, I
For
just
the
wanted
benefit
to
of the
clarify
audience
for the
here.
public that it was something that the council did opine on.
Let me just, we could do that, but let me just say, staff thinks it's a flawed process as well. The committee did a great job. They did a fantastic job. And honestly, the ranking simply gives you an indication of the value that the committee members as a whole believe that these particular applications performed. But it is well within your purview and your right, and you should make adjustments, and I think the committee understood that. Now, the committee did not have any dollar numbers. They had no idea how much the city manager was going to apply towards the process, so it's just a pure ranking. We gave you a rationale, but honestly, you can throw it out. You simply have before you how the committee members rank.
You're still not answering my question.
Yeah, well, you want us to read?
I didn't need the whole preamble. Just let's hear some of the criteria for the benefit of the audience.
Yeah.
The event should advance the city of Newport Beach as an exciting place to live, play, learn, work, and visit. The event should give Newport Beach residents and businesses a sense of civic pride and ownership. The event should increase the number of people who would normally come into the city at that time, thereby providing potential benefit to local businesses. Want me to go through the whole list?
A couple more.
Okay. The city's support must be used for implementation of an actual event, i.e. execution, not planning. The city's support should represent no more than 25% of the total event budget. The event need not always be free of charge, but should be accessible to the community and the public.
That's enough. So the 25% is, it shouldn't be more than their budget, but it's not some kind of criteria that we would need to fund up to 25%.
Right. When we talked about this, we just didn't want to support events that were really dependent upon us, that if our support ever went away, that it would fold without us, so that they had other sources of funding.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilman Selich?
I should probably know this, but where did the percentage categories come from?
I think staff made them up, didn't they?
Yeah, is there a better way? I'm sure you can come up with something better or different, but this is what we propose.
Well, why wouldn't you have considered funding an event 100% of what they asked for, I guess?
We did, and then but that started to limit the amount of events that got resources, so we wanted to go a little bit further down the list.
So right from the get-go, you decided there was not one event that you'd fund 100% of.
We actually did look at a scenario where the first two events were funded 100%, but when you combine those two totals, there was very little money left.
Kind of wipes it out for everybody else.
We couldn't go much further down our list.
And you just didn't have enough in your budget.
That's correct.
I was going to say, the $180,000, how did that number?
That comes through very detailed analysis of our budget situation. We're trying to be reasonable about what we've given in the past and what we might give this year.
But that was, what is it, 20, 33, that's about a 15% reduction over last year.
Yeah.
Have our revenues declined 15%?
No, they haven't.
Okay.
Certainly, but as your council well knows, you have a big list of things you want us to work on.
We do.
Projects,
Can I get my
programs.
$50,000 for
I think you
Old
did.
Newport Boulevard on this sheet here?
All right. Any other questions for staff or in general? Then I'll open this for public comment.
Good evening, Mayor Gardner, members of the council. I'm Greg Schwenk, CEO and Executive Director of the Newport Beach Film Festival, and I'm standing before you to request full funding of the festival for our fiscal year for next year. I wanted to go over a little bit of the highlights of what was a very challenging year for us, both professionally and personally. 2012 saw the largest number of films in the history of the festival, over 450, constituting 50 different countries represented at the festival. Our largest number of filmmakers attending, with over 400 filmmakers participating in this year's festival. 14, this is a small example, flew out from Ireland and spent multiple nights in Newport Beach. This also was the year where we worked with the largest number of hotels in Newport Beach, including the Island Hotel, the Marriott, the Fairmont, the Radisson, the Balboa Bay Club, and the Hyatt. In 2011, approximately pure hotels that we booked was about 500. This year it was about 525. That does not include special promotions that we did that I'm going to get some numbers on later in this month. And it does not include special packages the hotels did on their own to recruit people to come stay in Newport Beach. This also was the year where we had the largest number of restaurants participating, area restaurants participating in the festival, which topped out at over 65 different restaurants. We also worked very heavily on marketing and outreach, not only obviously to our community, but beyond. And as far as our outreach in our key drive markets of San Diego and LA, you had the traditional means of communication via the Los Angeles Times and a full pull-out section that sat as a topper on top of the LA Times to 1.2 million households in Southern California. You also had a national coverage in in Entertainment Weekly. You had LA Confidential, Angelino, Riviera Magazine, OC and LA Weekly, Locale, Los Angeles Magazine, and Esquire Magazine, giving us national coverage, as well as entering into a multi-year agreement with the festival, which is the first time we've done that with one of our magazines and media partners. This is complemented by an extensive TV, radio, online, and partnership outreach to key markets, both locally and internationally. The festival is also, if you listen to some of the criteria that it was placed before you, is something that is well represented by the citizens of Newport and beyond. In 2011, we had over 500 volunteers coming together to make the festival possible. In 2012, that topped out at over 800 volunteers. I don't have the total number of hours yet, but in 2011, there was close to 60,000 volunteer hours that our community gives to bring this back to Newport and beyond. I can just say that I've got an incredible staff that gives of time, treasure, and talent. No one is getting rich on doing what we do, and we do it because we love our community and we care about film and we care about art and culture. And I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
How are you feeling?
I feel much better. Just to let you guys know, in the middle of the film festival, I had my gallbladder taken out. So to Councilman Hill, they have great nurses and great staff at Hoag Hospital. And again, a testament to my team that in the middle of it, they were able to carry on and do all the things that I normally do.
You're always doing this bad planning?
It's, well, I don't have that many disposable organs left, so I'm hopeful that this is it.
Councilman Henn?
So, Greg, will you be reporting further on the economic impact of the film festival at a later time?
Yes. Every other year, we work with an independent audit of who comes out to the festival, how many people stayed, how many times they eat out. That's done through UCI. And I tried to get some updated numbers earlier, but we rely on them as a sponsorship back to the festival. So I'm just waiting for those numbers as they come.
Any more questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Bernie Swalstad, the Vice Chairman of the Corona Mar Chamber, Mayor Gardner, City Council. Basically, the Christmas Walk has the largest income in one day for the majority of businesses in Corona Mar. We have thousands of people that come into the city, if you've been there, and do a tremendous job and promotion. Our costs are, what we give the city $2,500 in fees. This committee has recommended giving us $3,000, kind of treading dollars. We'd ask for $9,000. We'd appreciate it if you could approve at least $6,000. We used to get $15,000. Went down to $9,000. Now we're going to take the $3,000. We'd like to get $6,000. I appreciate your help in regard to that. We do help the city during the year, and I don't think this is what the committee takes in concern. The Newport Chamber and our chamber work the year round to bring people in and help the city businesses. And a lot of these events that you're approving don't do that the year round. Second thing is that we're probably the only organization in this group that raises $25,000 or more for the city through the 5K that the mayor mentioned for the recreation department, and the city nets that $25,000 to $30,000 every year that our chamber helps the city make money. So we'd appreciate your help. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mayor Gardner, City Council, Jim Walker, Restaurant Association, owner of the Bungalow Restaurant. Just to put everybody's mind at ease, I will only be speaking once today. Yes, well, I did. A couple of things on this process of evaluating the funds. Frankly, the flaw that I see is the conflict between a charitable organization and organizations like the Film Festival, the Newport Beach Restaurant Association. I think there's an issue, and perhaps one thing to be considered is they should be in two separate groups because they're really two separate functions. I'm not going to try and address which one has more value, but the only thing that I would say is with the Restaurant Association, obviously we got a lot less than we asked for. And we do have another council meeting coming up in which on the 2nd of June, which we look forward to doing a PowerPoint presentation, and I would ask that before you make a final decision on the amount of money that you are considering, that you at least hear our PowerPoint presentation and a little more information on Restaurant Week. One thing about the Restaurant Association and the restaurants in Newport Beach, we're an ongoing entity. We're here year-round, and we give identity to the city of Newport Beach. Restaurant Week is the opportunity for a lot of independents, a lot of restaurants to really get out and have a community event that I think everybody benefits from, certainly the residents of Newport Beach as well as the restaurants and the city as well. So we would appreciate a little bit more consideration to allow us to continue to have Restaurant Week. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Good evening, Mayor Gardner and City Council members. I am Diane DeRudy. I'm the President and the Race Director for the Newport Mesa Spirit Run. Obviously, I wanted to say a few words. The Spirit Run, I'm sure most of you are familiar with it. It's going to be celebrating its 30th year here. It's a local event that has been supported not only by local parents and has donated back over $2 million to local schools over those 30 years, but has a very long, prestigious list of sponsors in the area, and so it's got the connection. I can't go through every bit of the criteria we've been through, and I'm sure you don't want to hear it, but I want to address some of the things I've heard tonight just from our perspective. This process that we went through was an extremely detailed process. I spent hours preparing the application. We were required to give a tremendous amount of detail on how much money we spent, how much revenue we're going to make, trying to support all of the criteria, which I understand that perhaps you may be reconsidering is not the right criteria. But all of the applicants, as far as I'm aware, have been through this process 2 years in a row. So they were very aware of how it worked and how things went last year. It was a very similar process that you gave your budget and percentages were applied. So if someone was thinking, oh, well, I didn't know, I should have asked for more, first of all, if they're going to ask for more, they needed to have a very legitimate basis to do so because we're all subject to audit and subject to reporting. But on top of that, if they were surprised last year and were just trying to be conservative, they were very well aware that what was going to be happening. I think it was a very thoughtful process that considered all aspects, not only how much cost events, how much the events benefited the city, how much the events were responsible in handling their money, many, many criteria that I could, like, again, you don't want to hear and I couldn't possibly go through right now. Again, I want to note, the grant application, which we received a grant last year, we have to report back and we are subject to audit, so we have to account for all of the money that we are claiming. Our event is run entirely by professional volunteers. I myself am a CPA and a lawyer. My major partner on the event is also a financial person and a lawyer, and we are very well aware of what we're doing. We donate all of our time for free, all of our energy. The event would not be around without us. The rest of our board is the same. They don't work as much, but we consult with all of them to provide the most efficient event so that we can give back exactly as much as we possibly can to schools and to keep this event alive. There's some significant factors that I'm sure you're not aware of about the Spirit Run that arise over and above the general criteria that are set forth for us to apply. Not only do we meet all the criteria of, being great for the community, being a long-standing event, and, bringing back to the community, bringing people into the community, but we also help the city's rec department not only generate revenue but save costs. I'm sure that Spirit Run has generated a lot of revenue in terms of the Camp Newport Expo. The Camp Newport has its expo at our event. Previous to that, they used to go and have to pay for that at a different location, did not attract nearly as many children. Spirit Run attracts children all in their market area because they're all students and people that live in the surrounding area that are coming to the event, and they visit the camp. They see all of the camp's representatives and get an idea, and I'm sure I've been told that the revenues have been increased as a result of being at our event. On top of that, we partner with the City of Newport Beach track meet, and what was a dying event of only about 100 kids has now risen to about 500 kids, which again is more revenue, but more importantly, keeping an important event alive for kids in the area. In addition to that, at the amount, or even less than the amount that we are recommended to be given, the City of Newport Beach would be the title sponsor, would be the City of Newport Beach's Spirit Run. They would receive a tremendous amount of marketing benefits on that. Their name would be on top of every logo, in the front of every T-shirt, the back of every T-shirt, and every single piece of marketing we have. Again, I have to point out that aside from all the direct benefits to the city in terms of revenue and cutting costs, money goes back to local schools. Again, more than $2 million to date, and that amount is increasing. One final point is that even with all the joint marketing that we do in working with the city on the Camp Newport Expo and the track meet, we, in addition to the normal benefits of a sponsor, we devote pages of our literature to the city. So without really, I would urge you as a council to really take a close look at what was done here. Maybe you want to apply different criteria, but what I can say for sure is a very detailed, thoughtful process, and that the people that went through it, there's a lot of great information there for you to make your decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Quick question before you go. It says it on our paper here anyway, it's called the Newport Mesa Spirit Run.
Yes.
So is there a tie-in with Costa Mesa as well?
It benefits schools in the Newport Mesa Unified School District.
Does Costa Mesa donate to this?
The Costa Mesa runs another Newport Mesa Unified District run, which is Costa Mesa Community Run. Mm-hmm. So as of this date, no, they have not yet directly donated to the event.
Do they donate to that event?
Yes, they do. They're the title sponsor of that event.
Do you know what their level of support is on that?
I don't know.
Okay.
It's a much smaller event. It's only 5 years old.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone else?
Good evening. I'm Lisa Walter. I'm the Executive Director of Susan G. Komen for the Cure here in Orange County. And very quickly, I wanted to immediately address the issue of us being a big organization and perhaps a perception that we're well-funded. I want to let you know that our Orange County affiliate very specifically raises our money in Orange County and keeps our money in Orange County. We don't send any money off to an administrative overhead. We don't support a national office. We don't pay national dues. We only do two things with the money that we raise here in Orange County. 75% of it we put towards services for Orange County residents, which certainly includes a significant percentage of women and families from Newport Beach. And the other 25% we put immediately and directly into cancer research, some of which is done right here in Orange County, for example, at UCI. So we might be a big and well-known name, and the Race for the Cure has been around. This will be our 21st Race for the Cure here in Orange County. But we're a local organization, and we're a local benefit. So I want to put that out. We also raise every dime here in Orange County, and the Race for the Cure does raise $3 million, but it's because the participants fundraise, because they know and care about the services that are going to be provided. So I want to say I really appreciate the Special Events Committee's work. I appreciated that this year they more specifically defined what they cared about and what you cared about around the events, and apparently recognized those benefits in the Race for the Cure. We bring 30,000 people to Newport Beach on a Sunday morning, and the majority of them are, there's a percentage that's Newport Beach residents, but the vast majority are from other places around Newport Beach, and our Race for the Cure is also a destination for people in California and around the country. We generate hotel rooms at the Marriott, which the Special Events Committee said they cared about, and spending at Fashion Island on that Sunday spikes, which they clearly can tell you. But even more importantly, we provide breast health services, we provide free mammography, we provide diagnostic procedures with the money that we raise, and I think the recognition that that's the purpose of this event, I hope, came through in our application. We were rated number 3, and we appreciate that, but I'd also point out that we were really the top charitable event, an event that is for the sole purpose of improving the health and welfare of our citizens. So different than the boat parade or the film festival. We were recommended for funding at 50%. We did ask for $20,000, which was really based on approximately what we pay to the city for city services. It's actually more like $23,000 or $26,000. So we thought, okay, that's what we'll ask for. That seems fair and reasonable. We're not going to jack that up or put in the full 25% that would have been based on our budget, which could have been significant. So we would ask that you consider moving us up to 70% of the request. It would still be below what we will be paying back to the city. That would be approximately $14,000. And that's less than the city traditionally over the 20 years prior to this new system. That's less than the city had traditionally provided to the Race for the Cure. So I would just say to you, it's a tough time. There are a lot of people unemployed and uninsured, and we're trying to pick up the slack for women who are in that position. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Mayor Gardner, my name is Jim Mosier. I think you put your finger on one of the many flaws in this, and the difficulty of distinguishing the request from the need for the funds from city public funding of the events. And one of those, I think that perhaps could be scrutinized is the film festival. I appreciated Mr. Schwenk's presentation about it, and I know the film festival is popular with many of you, and some of you actually probably would be surprised to know technically it is a charity, 501c3 charity, but it seems to be a very well-heeled charity, and I would really question whether they would need the $87,500 to stay here in Newport Beach. I think the name Newport Beach is very important to them, and they would probably be here with even zero funding, and they could probably absorb this amount with a slight adjustment of their ticket prices. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment?
Good evening, Mayor Gardner and City Council. On behalf of the my name is Chandler Bell. I'm chairman of the Newport Beach Chamber of Commerce. On behalf of Newport Beach Chamber of Commerce and our board of directors, I wish to indicate the Chamber is proud to host two of the top events in the city, with the boat parade being listed as number 1, also being named number 2 destination in the U.S. for holiday lights by Yahoo Travel, being Rockefeller Center as number 1. We can continue to bring value to our community as evidenced by the attendance and publicity these events generate. As our mission states, the Newport Beach Chamber of Commerce is to promote economic opportunity through business and community leadership and enhance the social and civic environment of Newport Beach. Two things. One, we actually asked for less this year than we did last year, understanding your budget and so forth. Also, the Taste of Newport, for example, we pay approximately $18,000 for police, $2,500 in permits, $2,500 in inspection fees, $2,500 in traffic control. So the $5,000 that we've received on this is definitely under what we pay out to the city to host this event, this 3-day event. We will use these funds, sponsorship funds being recommended to enhance our events for betterment of the city, and we urge your approval of the recommendations in the staff report. And we thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? I didn't count 15. Okay, all right. I'll bring it back to council. I'd like to open before my opening salvo is, what if we, as a starting point, gave no one more than they got last year? Right there, that frees up almost $20,000. So that's my nickel in the pot.
Sorry, say that again. You just went up to 200. Is that what you said?
No. I said,
I'm
what if no event got more than they got last year? So in other words, the boat parade would go down, and so would the Spirit Run go down. And that would be a consistent place to start. And then there would be freeing up money if there were those events that people felt had been underfunded. Just enough thought.
I have another thought. Because I do support some of the funding that's here. I don't support. I think some of it needs to be reduced. I'll throw it out there. I think that the Spirit Run, I'm satisfied with the $14,000 that we gave them last year. It is a good event. I have no problem with the event, but I just don't see doubling the funding while we're reducing everybody else's. I don't see where their event is any better than some of the ones that are come above it, and even some of the ones that come below it. So I'd say that. As far as the film festival ask, I agree with Mike here about this. This is really a cultural event for the city. I really, in the future, I'd like to see this event off this list. I mean, I won't be here next year for the list because I'm termed out at the end of the year. But I don't think that this event is in the category of all the others. Maybe the boat parade. But those two events, the other ones I see as more of a contribution or a charitable thing or something to help them along. But these other two events are cultural events for our city. They do bring widespread notoriety to our city, bring people from outside the city into the city, and I'd hate to see either of those events be diminished or fail because the city wasn't willing to support them both, with our moral support as well as our financial support. So as far as the film festival goes, I'm willing to support the full $125,000 request, even if that busts City Manager Kiff's budget here of $185,660. And the Chamber Boat Parade, I'm also willing to support the ask that's there. At least the ask, or at least the 30,000. I mean, the extra 5 is another story, but I'll support at least the 30, and I'll leave it to some of the others to.
Okay. I don't know how we want to do this, but I suppose we could take a straw vote on those or something, but I do not support raising the film festival. How does everybody else feel about going up to 125,000?
I'm for it.
I'm for it.
All right, you got 3, 4? All right, well, there goes your budget, Mr. City Manager.
It's actually your budget.
Yeah. Well, no, it's
Our
your
budget.
effort.
It's
Your
our
effort.
Right, it's our budget.
As we did it last year. I think you made lowball us just because you know how crazy this is going to get.
I would
Okay.
not do that.
All right, I'm out. I'm obviously on a different playing field than everybody else, so go to it.
No, I think I'm kind of your level as well.
I'm out.
I see it as we've told the police department, here's your budget, they meet it. We firefighters, we said, here's our goals, they met them. So I say I'm sticking to the manager's recommendations. That's how I see it.
For the whole list?
All right, but we've already had 4 votes for the film festival. All right, go ahead. Any other changes people would like to make?
All right, so Steve, you were saying 30,000 for the Christmas boat parade?
At least 30. I mean, I could be persuaded to 35, but I'll at least the 30.
I'm okay with 35 on the boat parade.
I'm okay with 35 on that.
Yeah, I am too.
That I see is one of perhaps the signature event for this city, and then we need to make sure that.
Well, it draws in the whole city. I mean, it draws in people from out of the city, thousands of them. Can't get to my home. There's so many people on the street.
Any other things you want to raise?
Well, I think shouldn't we just kind of go down the list then and just,
All right.
it only take a few
Okay,
minutes.
so we've got 35,000 for the boat parade, 125,000 for the film festival, 10,000 for Susan G. Coleman.
I'm good with that.
I'm good with
Do
that.
I hear any more? Going. Okay. Spirit Run, 14,000.
I'm good with that.
Good with that.
I'm good with that.
Balboa Island Improvement Association, $960.
I'll give them the 1,200 that we have.
I was
before.
thinking $959 actually. But no, I'm good for at least 1,000. I don't know.
Well, I'll say the 1,200 we gave them in the past.
All right.
How many for 1,200? All right.
I can go for that.
Christmas Walk?
6,000.
6 here.
Third.
Taste of Newport?
I'm good with the 5,000 on that.
Yep.
Okay. Heritage Run?
If there's anybody else in support, I would give them what they got last year, 7-2.
Nope.
Whoops, wait a minute. We're on the
Heritage Run.
Heritage Run. $600.
I'm still on the Taste of Newport.
I think that the majority was for keeping it as it
Oh.
is. Is that correct? For 5? Yes. So, all right, now to the Heritage Run. Did I hear a suggestion?
You like it? 600.
600.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really, Rush and I should really take care of that out of our councilman discretionary
Let's make it
fund.
0.
I say to make it 0.
Yeah.
And I'll donate the 300 of it out of my discretionary fund. If you want to donate the other 300, we're there.
All right.
I will do that.
Okay, we saved you $600, Dave.
I'm still 17-3 in the hole.
Hey, we're not done yet.
All right.
Oh, you're going to be deeper.
All right. Restaurant Week.
I'm fine at 6.
We're standing pat? All right. Newport Ensenada Race?
I would go to 10.
I support that.
Well, before we do that, we had some kind of an agreement, a multi-year agreement with them. Can you refresh my memory as to what that was?
I think
Has it
that last year
expired
was
now?
the last, this
What-
current year was the last year
And
of
we
the
were giving them
agreement.
$12,000 a year as part of that agreement?
To remember. They were in, year before was last year. Do you remember the amount last, well, it's 12 last year. Okay. So we're out of that agreement
But the
period.
12,000 was the agreement amount?
No, it's
No, that was a year after the
Oh, it was
agreement.
25,000.
Yeah.
We cut it to 12?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, yeah, 3,000's enough for me.
Oh, all right. Well, we've got a little here. All right.
All
How
right,
many per?
so,
Yeah.
let me just
Okay, go ahead.
explain
Uh-huh.
why it looks like we had the race was a very good race this year, very well attended. We had a very nice event in Balboa Village that was also very well attended. It seems to be centering on Balboa Village in terms of development of an event, a city-type event, and I'd like to...
Kick in $1,000 out of your discretionary fund.
Well, I can do that too, but I still think
Try it, Dave.
$10,000 is a good amount to just try and keep that positive progress moving, and especially as in relation to Balboa Village.
All right, I'll support Councilman Henn's recommendation if he donates the $1,000 out of his discretionary
I've got
fund.
2.
Where's
Tim?
Where's Dan Manischewitz?
What's on the table?
10,000 for
$10,000 for the Ensenada race.
Why do I feel like I'm in Vegas?
Well, I just would note, this is a 64-year-old race. It's one of the signature defining events of our nautical community. It's even more of a symbol of our community than the sailboats on our signs. So that's why I think we should keep
Now,
it.
Keith, come on.
We should keep it going.
Do we have?
Support the 10.
All
I'll
right.
go 10.
Is there any from the other 5 events that anybody wants to bring up?
Nope.
All right, do you have those numbers? We
I
have,
think we do, just checking.
All right.
I'm about 23,000 over, so.
So we're right
Kinda
where we
thought
were
we
last
gonna
year.
land up.
There you go. Perfect. Numbers worked out.
There's our number for next year.
all right.
Can you read them off, Dave?
Maybe Tara can help me. I was just going on the bottom
Okay,
line.
want to check yours too. I have Newport Beach Chamber at $35,000 for the boat parade, Newport Beach Film Festival at $125,000, Susan G. Komen at $10,000, the Spirit Run at $14,000, Balboa Island Parade at $1,200, Christmas Walk at $6,000, Taste of Newport at $5,000, Heritage Run at $0, but some commitments from other funding sources. Restaurant Week at $6,000, and Newport to Ensenada at $10,000.
Plus Councilman Henn, if I've got
That's right.
1,000 left
The
in my
extra funding.
discretion.
Not if you have.
Madam Mayor?
You get a new $1,000. You
All
get
right,
a new
all
budget
right.
for after July 1st.
Mayor Pro Tem Curry.
I would just like to make a couple of comments. This has turned into somewhat of a, is to be viewed as an entitlement process by some and as a hunting license by others. You know, projects that we did not fund at all for most of their history are now coming in here asking for very large amounts of money. And that's not going to be the way we can do business going forward. And so we need to, that's going to be part of the things that we think through about how we do this as part of the process that Mayor Gardner has suggested. I think that's going to be very valuable. And I also think that, you know, some people look at this process as let's just ask for as much as we can, whatever sticks, you know, we're money ahead. And we've got to sort of wean people from that thought as well. So I look forward to working through this as we go into next year's process. But I think what we've done is we've funded a variety of projects that both define our community, that enhance our community, that create public value, that are true to our history, like the Newport Ensenada race and like the boat parade, that make Newport Beach the special place that it is. And the problem with simply saying we're not going to fund any of this is that when you do that, it no longer is the special place that all of us grew up in and all of us treasure. The Newport Beach would not be the same city without the boat parade. It wouldn't be the same city without the film festival. So, you know, that's why we do these projects.
I had
Yeah, Councilman Henn?
Yeah. Just to add a little more nuance to that, in standing back from this, I see local charitable events, the local volunteer spirit. That's a category to me that we do need to preserve and enhance, the volunteer spirit in our city. We've got a lot of volunteer energy that we need to support and promote. I see cultural events like the film festival and maybe the boat parade. I see signature events for the city, and I see business support events, which really, Restaurant Week is a good example of that. So those are kind of general categories that I think we need to come to grips with, whether and to what extent we want to support as we're forming up our consideration for this study session.
Okay, Councilwoman Daigle?
Yes, well, I would have supported some reshuffling within that overall budget cap. I, again, would like to stick to, the manager's recommendation on that. And I think that in the future, because I'm hearing a lot about visitor surveying, that we really need to involve Visits Newport in this funding. So those would be my comments. Thank you.
Councilman Selich?
Well, I agreed that the boat parade and the film festival, they're signature events for the city. They really project our image, and the same way with the Newport Ensenada race. And so all three of those are really very important events for the city. So, as someone suggested, I think they kind of stand out amongst the rest of these events. And Councilman Henn, I think maybe your way of looking at them might be a good way to look at how we categorize the rest of these as we deal with them in the future. But certainly those three events are really three events that really project our image to the world.
Councilman Hill?
Well, I believe that we do have signature events, and I personally would be more comfortable with those signature events being looked at as line items in the budget. And I think I would dig deeper into them, and I would look at how the money is used and more of an integration with Visit Newport Beach, our marketing experts, to really maximize those events and take all of them to the next level as far as a broad base of marketing is concerned. And so I think that pulling the signature events out, giving them even more scrutiny of a line item type of mentality, and institutionalizing them would be an appropriate thing to do and get out of this competing with the other non-signature type events.
All right, this is going to be an interesting study session. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Please vote.
With Mayor Gardner and Councilmember Daigle voting no, the motion carries.
All right, and now, we're still on our consent calendar, in case everybody forgot. Item number 15, Mr. Mosher.
Madam Mayor, I
Yes,
must
Mr. Hill.
once again recuse myself on the basis that I own a piece of property within 495 feet of the corner of the Balboa Bay Club.
All right.
Mayor Gardner and members of the council, my name again is Jim Mosher, and this item is your ratification of a change in tenant at the Balboa Bay Club, a property that sits on land we administer in trust for the people of California. And in addition to Councilman Hill's comment, I actually wanted to start with the similar indelicate question, which I forgot to ask when the same matter was before you last year, which is if any of you are members of the Balboa Bay Club or the Golf Club. And the reason I'm asking that is not any suspicion, but reading about the history of Newport Beach, I understand that in the not-too-distant past, all of the city council members received complimentary memberships in the Balboa Bay Club. I take it that that is something of the past.
If it's still happening, I don't know about it.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm not a golfer.
And I was a member of both clubs, and I am no longer.
Good.
I did come out at the Bay Club. They had my debutante thing there.
Uh-huh. But beyond
But that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
That means something different these days.
Oh. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Mosher.
Yes. Okay. But beyond that, what I wanted to observe is that I understand that part of your obligation as fiduciaries for the public trust is to certify that the current tenant is in compliance with the terms of the lease. However, according to this rather thick report, stuck in here is something from the city auditor, and she found actually two problems with compliance. One is that the number of public boat slips is less than the number required by the lease agreement, and the other is that the accounting year they're using is not the one specified in the lease. So I'm not totally sure what you have to do tonight, but I'm wondering how we can certify compliance if they're not really in compliance, and more importantly, if we're planning to take any steps to force the new tenant into compliance with the lease agreement. Thank you.
Thank you. What about public boat slips? Do we have somebody from the Bay Club that would like to talk about that?
Good evening, Mayor Gardner and members of the City Council. I'm David Wooten, CEO of the Balboa Bay Club. I don't know offhand what the required number of boat slips is for the Balboa Bay Club in the lease. What I do know is the important thing is the revenue received by the city from those boat slips. And I believe if you check the record, that revenue is very substantial and meets any requirement that might be might have been in the past when this lease was first initiated, which I think was about 12 years ago. As far as the other requirements, I'm not familiar with those.
All right, well, that is something, thank you, something to consider if we're not getting full public access, that perhaps we should. All right, any other discussion of this?
Sorry, I don't think it's about public access, it's about the
public
number of
yeah.
slips, and because boats are getting bigger, they shrunk the number of slips, have made the slips bigger.
Okay.
And it's probably that our lease should accommodate that, because that's probably a reasonable thing to do.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. All right, no, any other public comment? Do I have a motion?
Move approval of the item.
Second.
Please vote.
With Councilmember Hill recusing himself, the motion carries 6-0.
Thank you. Public comments?
Public comments are invited on non-agenda items generally considered to be within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. Speakers must limit comments to 3 minutes. Before speaking, please state your name for the record.
Is there any public comment?
Good evening, Mayor Gardner and City Council. My name is Bettina Deininger. I live in Newport Beach, and I'd like to comment on the property we're sitting on right now, the City Hall. Perhaps a lot of rumor has been going around about what is happening here. We hear a lot of discussion, and I know you're probably discussing this as I speak in your private comments. But you know, when I moved here, the Lido Village was a vibrant and charming place. It's been in decline. The decline has been a tragic thing to watch. You may remember several years ago, there was a national group of architects that surveyed Newport, and they assessed that the cannery and the Lido Village area was the best area for development. I guess Mr. Hill was nodding his head. I guess he remembers that. It was several years ago. Of course, that was before the Pelican Coast property was opened up. But economics aside, the physical attributes of this area haven't changed. We still have the bay, we still have the beach, and we have some land here that we're all talking about. Last year, residents of Lido Island filled out a questionnaire as to what the immediate area residents would like to see here and would support. Amazingly, the city then hired a firm, Kaiser Marston Associates, to do an expensive study that I feel like a high school student could do, and they would have done it better because they live here. I feel that rental units that have been discussed on this property, however described, are not the best use for this property. I, for one, cannot see the city as landlord to beach-adjacent tenants, but anyway, I'm sure you'll lease it to somebody. But something more permanent with a drawing power to support the shops now vacant and the others to come. Since we only hear about your thoughts, i.e. a parking lot, which I guess didn't fly, or rentals, and we thought maybe condos, but that didn't seem to be profitable, I don't know. It's small wonder that we feel this property is not being marketed properly. I would suggest that a boutique hotel, a concept, is an idea that has some legs here. They've been talking about it on the waterfront, but that isn't really as viable because of the various restrictions there. But we have 4.5 acres here that we could do something with. I would ask you to abandon the idea of a rental with parking garage and seek a hotel prospect. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comment?
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. My name is Denise Oberman. I'm a resident of the Peninsula Lido neighborhood, and I'm here also to comment on the Lido Village revitalization and City Hall site reuse plans. I would like my comments to be entered into the public record, if you would, please. I have been active in the revitalization discussions, and I learned something last week that really upset me. That the city has essentially concluded to use the City Hall site for a parking lot with apartments over it. This was not what the community said that it wanted. It's not the highest and best use of the property, and it definitely will not drive successful revitalization of the area. An upscale boutique hotel is clearly the highest and best use of this site. The reuse provides significant benefits to the city residents and other stakeholders, both who live here and operate businesses, as well as desirable guests. This type of hotel use is synergistic with the entertainment and retail uses proposed by the adjacent property owner and others. These uses together will provide a legitimate destination anchor required to spearhead and jumpstart successful revitalization of this area. The city will not have to delay the redevelopment and will not have to rely on these various fragmented property owners that are on the other side of Lido Village to hope that we can, in fact, revitalize this area. The city would gain both development fee and recurring hotel tax revenue from this use. This use could be used and enjoyed by both residents in the area and quality visitors alike. Establishment of this destination anchor would enhance the development of the surrounding areas, including those who wished, landowners and other developers who are developing other uses and wish to optimize their properties. Combined, we already have more than enough existing residential inventory in this area, and we also have plans that are already committed to on the part of various other people in this immediate area to add additional residential development. We really don't need any more residential development in this area, in particular apartment type of use. So combined with a plan of two-way circulation for Via Lido, 32nd Street, and Finley, along with the landscape and pedestrian walkway enhancements proposed by the CAP Committee, this would jumpstart successful revitalization and assure success for many years to come. So finally, we ask the Council to commit to this use and move forward to actively solicit proposals from qualified, experienced hotel developers for the benefit of our community, the city, and the public. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Council members. My name is Leland Iverson. I'm a 10-year resident of Lido and a 30-year resident of Newport Beach. And I agree with the former speaker. And I think that the report by KMA, in fact, supports many of the issues that are brought forward. I mean, one of the important points is that the existing City Hall site offers a great opportunity as being a catalyst for the redevelopment, and that until consensus is reached on the redevelopment of the existing City Hall site, it is unlikely that anything else is going to happen. So until we as a city can come to grips with what we should do here, the rest of the people are waiting, and you know that. So the highest and best use, I think, also for the City Hall property is a destination hotel, a landmark for the peninsula, a nightlight, a security for our village, a multiplier of spending and income where people come in for a week and go to all the hotels and go to all the restaurants, and another group comes in next week. People who live in apartments are not going to do that. And when you look at the revenue stream that could be generated from that, the report also suggests that the hotel is estimated to generate $228,000 per year in the ground rent payment. Now, if there was a parking structure associated with that, which was presented in the report as alternate 2, that number jumps up to $293,000. Now, if the alternate 3, which was a mixed-use residential, which is very close to what was presented at the council meeting probably last month, that says that the payment to the city could range from $206,000 to $258,000 per year. So clearly, it's not out of the realm of thinking of this use. And as Lido residents, we are going to keep asking you to compare this use to other uses and to evaluate whether, in fact, it is the highest and best use. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Lynda Klein-Formusis. I'm a property owner and a resident of Lido Isle for 10 years. I'm speaking about the City Hall site reuse and the Lido Village revitalization. I'm also requesting that there simply should not be any question that the highest and best use for the City Hall site is an upscale hotel and not a parking lot with an apartment above it. This is a spacious property. We have the room to really do something special here that could be very powerful. Apartments and parking lots are not a powerful draw. I lived in Los Angeles and Beverly Hills for quite a while before moving here 10 years ago, and one of the best examples of a revitalization came with the advent of shutters by the Beach Hotel. I parked in that neighborhood every week for quite a long time and sometimes had to wait a while to get out of my car because it really wasn't safe. Well, when the shutters by the Beach Hotel came in, things changed radically, and it is now a destination and a real jewel in that area that was once very sketchy and very problematic. In speaking with other people on the Lido Peninsula, community members, I've encountered not only enthusiastic support for this idea, but unanimous support with all the other people that I have spoken to. That's all I have, and I'd like this to be entered in the public record.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment?
Mayor Gardner and members of the council, my name is Jim Mosier. I can sense that you're wondering when we'll stop so you can get on with the agenda, but I did have something I wanted to speak to you about, and on a topic quite different than the other ones. When you were making your announcements earlier this evening of events that you had attended during the time since the last council meeting, although 4 of you were there, none of you mentioned having attended this last Saturday, the annual meeting of Stop Polluting Our Newport, also sometimes known as SPAWN, where we enjoyed a talk from our city manager, Dave Kiff, on the environmental future of Newport Beach. Something there happened, though, that I found a little bit disturbing. Before the meeting, someone spoke to me about an effort that they had, or interaction they had with the city staff, where they were trying to look at the plans for our new Sunset Ridge Park, which is going before the Coastal Commission in June, on June 13th, if I'm not mistaken. And I believe what that person told me was correct. I happen to know that those plans have been shown to other people, so they should be public records that are freely available. But this person told me they were given the 3rd degree when they asked to see them, and they were told that why did they want to see them, what group were they associated with, and only after identifying themselves as just a private, uninterested citizen who wanted to look at the plans were they permitted to see them. You reviewed the Public Records Act request and changed your policy about that back in January. That's not the way the Public Records Act request is supposed to work. Public documents are produced by public servants for the use of the public. They're supposed to be available for everyone. The public servants are not supposed to ask why the inquiry is being made. So that behavior is totally inappropriate. And as part of the presentation back in January, we were told the city staff had been trained on the Public Records Act request actually before the new policy came to you. That was a little peculiar, but apparently the training was not thorough enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there other public? Oh, go ahead.
Mr. Busher, if you wouldn't mind providing us with more details, we'll make sure we look into that matter regarding the Public Records Act request and make sure that the employee is properly trained to the extent that it occurred in the manner that you stated.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? All right. Now's the time for oral reports. Councilman Daigle?
Yes, the tourism conference that took place, it was sometime last week at the Marriott. One of the presentations was on the airport, and I serve on our airport Citizens Aviation Commission. And one of the challenges of the airport is brought out by a question is, what exactly is the airport called? And when you go online and you try to book a reservation, you don't know if to put in JWA, to put in SNA, to put in OC. If you're in Denver and you want to get home and you look at the departure boards, you're not sure if it's going to say Orange County or John Wayne or Santa Ana. So one item I'd like to take up at our next Citizens Aviation Committee is that naming, and is there any way that we can get some consistency? I think that will make it more user-friendly for people. There wasn't enough time at the forum to adequately address that question, so I'd be interested in exploring that a little bit more. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Henn?
Yes, 2 reports. The Balboa Village Citizens Advisory Panel met on Tuesday, May the 15th at the Nautical Museum. The sole primary business was the consideration of the draft implementation report of the Citizens Advisory Panel. This is the wrap-up of their work. It included a final version of the brand promise as well as the brand vision for Balboa Village, and recommendations on economic development, parking governance, and other issues. And so I was very pleased. We had a good discussion. A report was approved with some modifications to be forwarded on to the Neighborhood Revitalization Committee to be reviewed, and from there it'll go to council for final recommendation. So I'm really happy that we're making this progress and just about ready to mature this to actual approval. And then the Tidelands Management Committee met on Wednesday, May the 16th at 4 p.m. at Oasis, and at that time considered once again Lynda Isle Lagoon dredging. There were a number of questions. Staff was asked to provide some additional information, and I imagine we'll be coming back for one more look at that before it would go any further. And then we also reviewed the Tidelands Infrastructure Management Plan. We asked staff to take the recommendations which the council committee members felt were generally on the mark and give us another filter of those priorities by having a look for the next 24 months at funding availability and opportunities as well as staff resources, and reprioritize the list under those 2 filters. I expect we'll cover that at the next meeting, and then that infrastructure management plan likely would mature to council for consideration. And so we're making very good progress in both of those committees. That's it.
Councilman Selich?
No reports.
Councilman Hill?
No reports.
Councilman Rosansky?
Well, I'm going to make a future report. We're going to be having our first meeting of the Charter Update Committee this Thursday in the council chambers, assuming that we do approve the committee members in a later action tonight. And so I encourage anybody who's interested in the Charter Update to come out. I believe the meeting starts at 4 o'clock, and the agenda should be posted on the city website. And we'll be having a series of meetings every Thursday at 4 o'clock here in the council chambers, culminating hopefully in a charter amendment that will be agreed upon by the committee and advanced to the city council for its approval and ultimately put on the ballot in November. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Curry?
No reports?
I have just one. The Coastal Bay Water Quality Committee had a great presentation on dolphins, since everybody likes dolphins. We are the center of some really cutting-edge research as far as dolphin activity. And one of the things that's helpful is anybody that sees dolphins, they'd love to know where they are, what they are doing, and that sort of thing. So if you do see dolphins, you can email dolphinproject@hotmail.com and give them all the information you've got, and that will go into helping them understand better the migrations and activities of our local dolphins. And now, with your consent, we've had members of our fire department waiting very patiently, so I'm going to take this out of order, supplement number 21.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and council members. This is supplemental item number 21, which is a proposed labor agreement between the City of Newport Beach and the Newport Beach Firefighters Association. I'm going to briefly summarize what's in this memorandum of understanding. It includes The term is proposed to be for roughly 30 months, reaching back to January 1st, moving to June 30th of 2014. It involves pension contributions, additional pension contributions made by the Fire Association membership up to 9%, which is equal to the suggested employee share under PERS. It includes a new tier for both miscellaneous and safety members. That new tier would be a 2% at 50 program for safety, combined with what will be the city's first hybrid plan, which involves a defined contribution side, a DC side. The non-sworn members in the Fire Association new hires would go to what's known as a 2% at 60 plan. There also are two cost of living adjustments in there. We call them a collared COLA. It'd be a minimum of 1% and a cap of 2%. And again, those would happen twice throughout the 30-month term. The medical insurance contribution is brought up from the current $1,049 per month, plus the additional requirement that PERS requires us to pay if they're in a PERS system. And that would move to $1,274 a month. We have a new concept in here involving a training bank that each employee would be eligible to sharpen their skills outside of city-provided training on their initiative, and we're giving that I think a good, sincere trial period to hopefully people will take advantage of that and use it, and we'll have one of the better, or if not best, trained employee group in the region. That's basically it in a nutshell. I know a couple of the council members may want to speak to it as well. I wanted to, as I conclude my remarks, just thank both the council and the association for these were tough talks. These are challenging times to ask people to contribute more, and I think everybody approached it like it was a long-term relationship, which is what it is. There's a long history with the association and the city, and that is exemplified in this. And I think, again, I think Councilmember Hill sometimes says we deal with things like a family, and I think we did that this time. So thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Curry.
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to acknowledge to the city manager and to our employees who are here the historic nature of the agreement that we've reached. It comes as no secret to anyone that the pension plan that was adopted by the legislature in 1999 and then subsequently adopted by local governments throughout the state, the 3 at 50 plan just did not work economically, did not sustain itself. And so jurisdictions all over California are beginning to move to a second tier at 2 and 50. I want to thank and congratulate our employees for getting there for where we're going to be with the new firemen. But a second tier doesn't do anything for the immediate budgetary costs. That comes by increased employee contributions. Our firemen are out of pocket now making significant contributions to their pensions. And when looked at collectively, our employees, starting at zero in terms of employee contributions to pensions as recently as 2007, will be, when this is fully phased in, assuming our police come along, paying $6.7 million annually into the pension fund. Now, that comes out of everybody's take-home pay. So that's a very significant impact on the men and women who serve our city. It's also a very significant savings to the city, and it's one of the things that's helped keep us solvent, or will keep us solvent, going forward, and keep our ability to attract good employees and then preserve our ability to provide the same high-quality services that we've done in the past. When Mr. Henn was mayor, he introduced the compensation philosophy that talked about moving to employees paying 50% of their pension costs. We have gone from paying zero in 2007 to where, when fully phased in here, our miscellaneous employees will be paying about 32%, some of them paying as high as 36%, and our safety employees, police and fire, are about 19.7%. That is a huge pickup in terms of costs, getting towards that goal that the governor laid out of 50%. Frankly, I don't know of any other jurisdiction here in the county that's made as much progress as fast as Newport Beach. And I also want to congratulate our employees and our city staff and our council, because this has become a rancorous issue. We've seen a lot of nonsense filling our mailbox, frankly, about this, and it's become fashionable in some quarters to vilify public employees today. Our employees have been partners with us. They have been good partners. They love the city as much as anybody does. And they have recognized their role and their responsibility to help solve this problem. And they have made sacrifices that are significant financial sacrifices to help this city preserve its financial stability and its sustainability. I just want to thank them for that, because they deserve a lot of credit for that. It hasn't been the same in other cities. But it's here because of the leadership that all of the colleagues on this council have provided, and David, particularly for you as city manager. So I just want to say that I am very, very proud of this agreement. Thank you.
Councilwoman Daigle?
Well, I would say that labor negotiations are never easy. In my mind, this is about finding balance between what is fair to dedicated employees and what is fair to taxpayers. And the balance does shift from time to time and needs to be reassessed and modified based on numerous factors. And so I greatly appreciate the cooperation of our fire association to get us to today. I think it shows that our community remains good at working out our issues together cooperatively, and certainly recognizing the value of the services of our firemen and paramedics, often life-saving. So thank you, and we all look forward to continue to working together.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment on this item?
Mayor Gardner and members of the council, I don't mean this as a criticism, but because your discussions with the negotiators have happened all behind closed doors, some of this is quite new to the public. One thing I found particularly confusing is the city manager's reference in the staff report on page 3 to this hybrid formula involving combination of a defined contribution and a defined benefit plan, because as far as I can remember, the last time we heard about the pension crisis, we were told that defined contribution plan was very desirable, but it wasn't on the menu of options available to city employees. So I'm wondering if something has changed since then, or how this came to be. Thank you.
Very briefly, this is a defined contribution. This is a hybrid plan set up outside of the PERS system. The basic defined benefit side is within the PERS system, but it would be a supplement that the city would embark upon through a private sector provider for the defined contribution side, and that is allowed. But what I think the previous discussion was, does PERS provide a hybrid plan? They don't. They just provide or at least not eligible for us. They just provide a defined benefit plan.
Thank you.
Before you act today, unless public comments are done, you do have a resolution that has been attached. This is the resolution which implements the changes with PERS, so that's associated with your packet. It's in a paper handout, and so the recommended action would include the adoption of that resolution, which I imagine the city clerk will have to read the title of, and then the authorization of the mayor to execute the MOU.
All right. Is there any other public comment on this item?
Madam Mayor.
Okay. Councilman Hill.
I just would say that I truly do believe we are family, and I'm very proud of the working of the association and working through the very tough negotiations and balancing sustainability so that we can all continue to be here. And I think that's very important, and I thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to adopt the resolution?
Move to adopt the resolution, the recommended action.
Second.
Please vote.
Prior to reading the vote, I'll read the resolution title. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Newport Beach rescinding Resolution Number 94-46 to modify the paying and reporting of the value of the employer-paid member contribution to the California Public Employees Retirement System for employees represented by the Newport Beach Firefighters Association. With that, the motion carries unanimously.
All right, and now do we have a motion regarding the memorandum of understanding?
Move the item.
Second.
Please vote.
The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much for coming out this evening. All right, moving back to public hearing, item number 16, the annual review of the Newport Harbor Lutheran Church Development Agreement.
Good evening, Mayor Gardner, members of the council. I'm Fernuena with the Planning Division. The municipal code requires that the City Council periodically review development agreements to determine if the applicant has complied in good faith with the agreement. Development agreement number 10 is for Newport Harbor Lutheran Church. It's located at 798 Dover Drive on the corner of Dover Drive and Castaways. The agreement was approved in 1997. All of the terms and conditions have been implemented or met with the exception of the church expansion. The church facilities are approximately 14,000 square feet in area, and the remaining entitlement is approximately 26,000 square feet. Within the last year, a limited term permit was approved for temporary classroom facilities, and 3 of the classrooms are under construction and almost completed. The staff report did mention a telecom permit, and that was for informational purposes only. The telecom permit is not an element of the development agreement or the review. At the last review in 2011, the council did find the applicant to be in good faith compliance with the terms of the agreement, and staff is recommending the same this year and to receive and file their report. Pastor Brad Sintra is here if the council has any questions for the applicant.
Thank you. Is there any questions of staff? All right. Public comment on this item?
Mayor Gardner and members of the council, I know this is somewhat out of order, but I wonder if the city attorney could comment on the previous action where the resolution, does the fact that you're going to be acting on a resolution was not announced on the agenda? I don't understand the ramifications of that. As to this issue, I really don't, I gave you some written comments. They're not really substantial. The noticing of the property for the hearing here tonight, which involves putting little notices in front of the property. Usually if this is like a private property and they have to come for a zoning administrator hearing, it's right there on the street so the public can see it. In this case, last year there were a lot of notices around it, which out on the street, and people passing by knew that the hearing was happening here tonight. This year I went by and I couldn't see any notices at all. I finally found the notice way inside the property there by the steps that lead up to the sanctuary. And somebody just passing on the street would have no knowledge that this was taking place tonight. I just hope next year that we'll get back to the old noticing method. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you want to comment on the resolution?
In regards to the last item, I believe the description on the agenda, which generally covers the labor agreement with the Newport Beach Firefighter Association, is broad enough to cover the related resolution which implements the portion of the MOU related to EPMC and reporting to PERS. I think that the description is broad enough, so I don't think there's any issue with the Brown Act.
All right, thank you. Current business, number 17, the Irvine Avenue median landscape improvements. Oh, I'm sorry. We didn't vote on it, did we? Yeah, thank you. Second. Please vote.
The motion carries unanimously.
Yes. Always.
Ready for 17?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, Dave Webb with the Public Works Department. Wanted to bring this to your attention tonight. We brought this as a staff report item. This is for the Irvine Avenue median improvements. This has to do with the replacement of trees in Irvine Avenue between West Cliffs and Dover. And there's a couple decisions for you to make tonight. As you recall, this went back to staff presented a conceptual reforestation plan back in December to a joint commission between Costa Mesa and our parks commissions. They approved the trees. They came up with a couple concepts. They wanted to have African tulip trees. They also selected a palm tree, and they wanted the council to make the final decision on the palm trees. So we went ahead and advertised the project for construction. We included 3 trees in there. On the base bid, we included a date tree. So the price for the bid tonight refers to that. There's another option to have a queen palm instead of the date palm, which would reduce this bid amount by $6,000. And there's an option to have a king palm, which would, because of rarity, I guess, right now, they're in short supply, would increase our bid by $204,000. So it's quite a distance on that one. We ended up getting 6 bidders. The low bidder went to Casa Construction. It was for $308,075. It was about 18% lower than the estimate. And with that, what we're looking for tonight is your recommendation, and on the palm tree, which we are recommending the date palm, but it's your choice in that, and we're also recommending approval of the contract to CASA Construction.
So we'd have 2 trees,
You have 3 trees to choose from. You have a date palm.
but there would be 2 types of trees?
African tulip and whatever palm you pick.
Okay, so there would be a canopy tree as well?
Yes.
All right. Councilman Hill?
Do I understand you saying that the king palm, you made 2 comments. One, that it was considerably more, 200 and some thousand more, and then you also made a comment that the project was under budget. How do you reconcile those 2 numbers? Or please reconcile those 2 numbers.
Well, the project came under the engineer's estimate by 18%.
So a dollar amount on that?
I don't know the top off my head, but it'd say $330, about $40,000. And then the other one is...
Give me all I need to know.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments? Before we make a decision, is there any comment from, public comment, or more from staff? Mark, did you want to say something?
Thanks, Dave. Jump in real quick. Staff's recommending, as Mr. Webb said, the date palm. The date palm has a much larger canopy. There's examples of that at the main library, right in the front there, where they kind of frame the front entrance. So it's a much larger tree. It's a much more rustic tree. And the Joint Commission from Costa Mesa and Newport Beach really recommended that tree. It was a couple of commissioners that said put the 3 out there. But for that landscape palette, I think the date palm will work real well.
Thank you. Councilman Selich?
Yeah, Mark, what size date palms are going in? Are they the same size that went in Corona Del Mar?
Yeah, no, we're going to put 25-foot date palms, 30 of them. They're on the median, so the median's going to look real good right off.
Right away.
Right
Okay.
away.
Councilman Hill?
Why is it that Costa Mesa is not contributing towards this cost, since these are shared trees? They're going on the property line, right? City boundary line?
Yeah, when we looked at the, you guys...
There's an agreement that was established in, I believe, 2002 that shares the maintenance cost, the irrigation and the routine maintenance of that median. We share that cost with Costa Mesa. For whatever reason, and the agreement doesn't go into the details, but for some reason it requires that Newport Beach is responsible for the replacement of any of those trees, the maintenance, the trimming of the trees, and the replacement of those trees if something should happen. So the agreement's quite clear that we foot the bill on that.
And did Costa Mesa share the cost of removing them?
They did not.
When does this agreement expire?
I don't know if it had an expiration date, but I know, as your report states, that the City Manager's Office will be conferring with Costa Mesa to see if we can rewrite that agreement.
Yeah, we think it should be looked at again in a different way in light of some of the things that have come up in this instance and others, yeah.
Has the City Attorney's Office looked at the agreement and is in agreement with what Mr. Harmon's saying?
It has been a while since I looked at that. I could take a quick look at it and review it. So I guess the answer is I haven't looked at the agreement in a while, but my recollection was what Mr. Harmon stated are the provisions.
Councilman Henn?
Yeah, I had a question. The date palms, is there any difference in these variety of palms in terms of how dirty the tree is, in terms of dropping, shedding, dates on the ground? Something like that.
And that does happen. This tree, and we looked at that because the canopy will be over, parts of the traffic lanes. This tree is not. There's not a lot of leaf litter or fruit litter from this tree, so it was acceptable to the landscape architect. There's another date palm, the Canary Island date palm, that does produce the fruit that would be an issue. So we're staying away from that.
Councilman Rosansky?
Well, I'm going to make a motion, but I'll wait until everybody else's comment.
All right. I'm not crazy about palm trees, but this is one of my favorites. I thought they did a nice job, and I'm glad that we're getting a canopy tree as well. This seemed to be a nice combination. And I think that the one advantage of palm trees is you really can get sort of instant landscaping in there because of their size.
Well, the 25-foot
Yeah.
right
Wow.
away, it'll look good, yeah, it'll be good trees.
All right.
Is there any need to let this contract quickly? This is where I'm leading. I guess I feel a little uncomfortable that the city attorney's office hasn't reviewed this agreement recently, and considering the cost involved and joint responsibility, I would make a motion that we continue this item for 2 weeks until the city attorney's office had an opportunity to review the document, and then can reassure us that this is in fact our obligation. I mean, all due respect to Mark and Dave here, but they're not attorneys, and sometimes interpreting contracts is a little different.
I believe I do have a copy. I read the contract maybe 8 months ago. I believe I have a copy in my office. Maybe we can move this to the end of the agenda, and I can go grab it and take a quick look if that's acceptable.
Okay. All right. We'll do that. We'll move it. We'll hold off on it. And, but we can take public comment right now as far as the item.
Dan Purcell, Corona Del Mar. I'm looking forward to our urban forestry plan that you're talking about putting into place in the future. I don't think we're doing enough right now to address some of that. I know in terms of the some of these flowering plants we're distributing all over the city, I want to talk about insects, birds, and other things. I think the staff looks at plants that are possibly invasive, and they look at vermin and material that can get picked up. But I'd like to see in the city more of a comprehensive look at what types of insects these plants that we're distributing all over the city attract, and in turn they'll attract different types of birds and other types of animals, and this and that. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? All right. We'll move on to item number 18, appointments to the Charter Update Committee.
As you recall, at the May 8th City Council meeting, you created the Charter Update Committee. There's a few things you requested, that Exhibit 2 come back so you can review it and replace possibly the Exhibit 2 attached to Resolution 2012-32. You'll also be making appointments. There was a council ad hoc committee that reviewed the resolution, reviewed the applications and conducted some interviews. And depending on who you appoint, there may be a need to waive some conditions on A2. And since the nominations came in under the 14 number, also to waive the requirement that there be 2 or more candidates for each seat. There is also, since there is an unsure of how many applicants there is a possible resolution if you wanted to decrease the number of on the membership on the Charter Update Committee from 7 to 5.
All right.
Well, I don't think we're looking to, at least the committee is, I don't believe, recommending that we go from 7 to 5. We had enough applicants that we feel we can fill the slate, so I think we'll pass on that.
Did you want to make a recommendation about the resolution regarding Exhibit 2 first, or would you like to conduct the appointments first?
Well, I thought there was a lot more clarity and definition around 2, so I appreciate the staff taking the time to do that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right,
I don't know if you wanted to-
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number,
I don't know if you want to take public
12-34,
comment.
replacing the Exhibit 2 to resolution number 2012-32.
Waiving all the policy.
And waive A2. And
Yes.
then-
All right. Is there public comment on this item?
Mayor Gardner and members of the council, I believe you're going ahead with making the appointments now, if I understand what you're doing, as well as the resolution. And it's unfortunate the city attorney is not here because, as you probably know, I have a disagreement with him about the propriety of making the appointments tonight. I would like to show you this thing here. This is called the local appointments list. The city clerk prepares this, and it's available in her office, and it lists all of the scheduled vacancies that occur in appointed offices in the city during the year. These appointments obviously are not on the scheduled list, therefore they're unscheduled. State law, which is part of the policies that you're waiving, part of what you're waiving is a component of the state law, and the state law has a provision for unscheduled vacancies. And one of those provisions is that you have to wait 10 days between when the notice of vacancy appears and when you can make the appointment. And this is only 9 days. So I don't think the appointments can be properly made tonight unless you're regarding this as an emergency appointment. And if you're doing that, you need to make a finding that an emergency situation arises, and the appointees are then effective only until the proper procedure with the 10-day waiting period can be effected. And as to the other parts of the staff report, I don't think we're embarking on a practical plan here. You have 42 issues that you're expecting this committee to meet and deliberate on in just 4 meetings. That's an awful lot of stuff. They're being appointed tonight. They're going to start 2 days from now. I don't think they're going to become experts on the charter in those 2 days. And I also would question the staff's recommendation that the meetings be held at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. By doing that, you're disenfranchising a very large part of the city population. Our city manager spoke to Spawn, I think just after he'd been appointed as city, not Spawn, Speak Up Newport. And he pointed out that there's a whole age group that doesn't really participate in our city government, which is people of not really young, not really old, but kind of in between. A lot of those people are working. They can't show up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. They can't they can't be candidates to be on the committee, and they can't really participate in its deliberations. So the time frame, the fact that it's in the afternoon, the huge workload, it just doesn't seem to me it's very practical. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have all the ballots in? Oh, do we need to make a... That's all we need to do right now?
Yeah, we can vote on the resolution.
Okay. Oh, we have a motion and a second, don't we?
Yes.
All right, well, let's vote on the resolution then.
Wait, is there any other public comment?
We had our public comment.
I didn't know you closed it, sorry.
There's nobody else.
Madam Mayor, I'd just like to react to a comment made.
Yes.
That was not a very positive yes, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, no. Yes. Yes, Councilman Hill, please.
Thank you. I've worked all my life, and I've never had a problem making daytime meetings when it was important and serving on committees when it was important. So I do not agree with that assumption.
Thank you.
I have a comment as well, and that is that I have a lot of faith that whoever we put on this committee will be able to get up to speed very rapidly on our charter. It's not necessary they become fully conversant in the entire charter at the beginning of the first meeting. Staff has parsed this out, I'm sure, in a way that it'll be handled a piece at a time, and I got a lot of confidence that our citizens can grasp the issues and make informed judgments with the benefit of public input as they go along.
Thank you. Please vote.
Councilmember Rosansky, your motion also includes appointing yourself and the mayor as the council liaisons, correct? Okay. Prior to reading the vote, I'll read the resolution title. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Newport Beach updating the list of city charter sections to be reviewed by the Charter Update Committee. With that, the motion carries unanimously. Running out of arms. Okay, now for the vote. And again, to be appointed, the nominee must receive at least 4 votes. Councilmember Hill votes for David Bonson, Paul Glowinky, Jeff Herdman, Suzanne Savari, Joseph Stapleton, Tim Stokes, and Paul Watkins. Councilmember Henn votes for David Bonson, Paul Glowinky, Suzanne Savari, Joseph Stapleton, Tim Stokes, Dan Wampel, and Paul Watkins. Councilmember Daigle votes for David Bonson, Jeff Herdman, Suzanne Savari, Joseph Stapleton, Tim Stokes, Dan Wampel, and Paul Watkins. Councilmember Selich votes for Paul Glowinky, Jeff Herdman, Suzanne Savari, Joseph Stapleton, Tim Stokes, Dan Wampel, and Paul Watkins. Councilmember Rosansky votes for David Bonson, Paul Glowinky, Jeff Herdman, Suzanne Savari, Joseph Stapleton, Dan Wampel, Paul Watkins. Mayor Pro Tem Curry votes for David Bonson, Paul Glowinky, Jeff Herdman, Suzanne Savari, Joseph Stapleton, Dan Wampel, and Paul Watkins. And Councilmember Gardner votes for David Bonson, Paul Glowinky, Suzanne Savari, Joseph Stapleton, Dan Wampel, Tim Stokes, Dan Wampel, and Paul Watkins. We have a lot of 7s, 6s. Everyone has more than 4s.
So do we vote completely over again, or we take the high ones, or how does that work?
Yeah, we'll pull the 7s out for sure. Yeah.
Could you go down and give the total, the tally you had on each one?
Double check for it. So at the end. David Bonson was 6, Paul Glowinky was 6, Jeff Herdman was 5, Suzanne Savari was 7, Joseph Stapleton was 7, Tim Stokes received 4, Dan Wampel received 6, and Paul Watkins received 7. So, did you get different? Okay. Suzanne Savari, Joseph Stapleton, and Paul Watkins received 7. Dan Wampel and David Bonson and Paul Glowinky received 6.
So they are, and then we
That's 6.
vote
And then-
between the next two?
Yeah, because, Jeff Herdman received 5.
I have Herdman and Stokes, I have Herdman 4 and Stokes 5. I'm not saying I'm right, but it's...
Oh, I had them
Herdman
even.
5. And-
So did I.
Did you have? Okay, that's where I was mistaken on Tim Stokes. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so what we can do is, since there were 7 and 6s, we'll count them in with David Bonson, Paul Glowinky, Suzanne Savaro, Joseph Stapleton, Dan Wampel, and Paul Watkins, and then we will vote our second vote between Jeff Herdman and Tim Stokes only. So only vote for one, please. Stokes and Herdman. Okay, vote number 2. Councilmember Hill votes for Tim Stokes. Councilmember Rosansky votes for Jeff Herdman. Councilmember Daigle, Jeff Herdman. Councilmember Henn, Jeff Herdman. Councilmember Selich, Jeff Herdman. Mayor Pro Tem Curry, Jeff Herdman. And Mayor Gardner, Tim Stokes. So it's Jeff Herdman.
And I would like to appoint as chairman
Okay.
of the committee, Paul Watkins. Taking them electronically.
So again, that first meeting is this Thursday
4
in council chambers at
Council
4
chambers.
o'clock. All are welcome.
Do we need to vote on Watkins? I'm fine with Watkins, but do we need to vote on, we voted on Mary when we did her, I think, as chairman.
It couldn't hurt.
Yes or no?
I would, yes.
I would.
All right, do I have a motion to approve Paul Watkins?
So moved.
A second. All right, please vote.
Motion carries unanimously.
All right, now on to our quarterly business report.
So, Mayor Gardner and council members, this is an item that's getting a bit routine, but hopefully it's still informative to folks. Our quarterly business report for January 1 through March 31st of 2012. This is, I'm not going to go through it, but if you have questions or comments, I'm happy to address those. Again, this is available to the public on our website, as well as hard copies around City Hall, and I hope you continue to find this useful.
I certainly did. I think. Is there public comment on this item? Seeing none, I'll close it.
I just had one comment while we're waiting here. I think I would encourage every single homeowner association and other group that has any interest on an ongoing basis in the city to get a copy of this report and to have a close look at it and inform your members of the content of this report. It's very worthwhile. It's a great way to stay up on what's happening in the city in a nice, bite-sized way once a quarter.
Thank you. All right. Yes.
Yes, Mayor Gardner, Honorable Council, I'm Steve Ray, Executive Director of the Banning Ranch Conservancy. I read with a lot of interest your quarterly report here. I would like to point out that in 2006, the citizens of Newport Beach voted to amend the general plan of the city of Newport Beach so that Banning Ranch was designated as a priority to be permanent open space and park, and that there would be an attempt to acquire it as such. And there, of course, was an alternative use, and that being development of the property. And I would like to point out that throughout this report, page 17, page 25, page 47, matter of fact, 2 whole pages are devoted to Banning Ranch, the development of Banning Ranch, not the open space and park use of Banning Ranch as specified by the voters. The Banning Ranch Conservancy is dedicated to achieving the wish expressed by the voters to have Banning Ranch remain permanent open space and park. And as such, I'm disappointed that nowhere in this entire document is there any mention made of anything toward that end, that is even, the general plan goal is to save Banning Ranch. And that in here, there's nothing that says, all it talks about is all the work that's been done toward the development of Banning Ranch. Nothing seems to have been done toward preserving Banning Ranch as open space and acquiring it. I would hope that in the future the city will do something more toward that end, since that is the expressed desire of the citizens of the city. I note in here also that you have an Environmental Quality Affairs Committee, and it says in here, quote, committee did not meet. Well, you have 16 current members of that committee, and there are 6 vacancies, so there's a lot of people there that could put to use to maybe try to help find a means to achieve this general plan goal of preserving Banning Ranch as open space and park and helping to find means of doing so. You have a whole committee of people willing to work for the city and not getting any use. So I would suggest that you maybe charge the committee with something to do, that being what can we do maybe to achieve that end, rather than just talking about development all the time of Banning Ranch. Let's talk about actually saving it as open space and park, just as the voters wanted. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, this is a receive and file. So we'll move on to number 20, the second meeting on the proposed budget.
So Mayor Gardner and council members, this is the last item on your agenda beside adjournments. We do want to spend a little time with it because it's the budget. So we have a presentation that Tracy McCrainer, we actually do have one more item after that, the Irvine Avenue median. But So Tracy McRainer and I will make the presentation. Certainly welcome your questions. It might be helpful to wait until we run through the presentation. So save those questions up unless you really want to jump in. So I'm going to switch sides so I can see.
Is there a wake-up button, Dave? Or do I get it started?
No. There, it got that one down there.
That's not it. There we go. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
So this is our second session on the fiscal year 2012-13 proposed budget. I'm going to step back a little bit and talk a little bit about where we've been from 2009 on to today. Major thing that's happened, I think, is our restructuring is going down from about 830 full-time equivalent positions. Actually, these are full-time positions to about 760, 762. Also, pension changes. You went a little further down that path tonight with the fire MOU, and our goal has been to get to a smarter, faster, and probably necessarily smaller place in terms of our city staff. Also maintaining or adding to reserves, and then all the while investing in our facilities and our infrastructure, and really reminding ourselves of what's important about Newport. And we've talked with you about this before, about what's important. That is the quality physical environment, that Newport Beach feels and looks different when you drive into it, that we're a safe community, that our citizenry is engaged and has opportunities to be engaged. It doesn't just mean at meetings. That means rec programs and library presentations and all the things that are really wonderful about town here. And that also that we are, as best we can, a responsive, customer service focused, and transparent government. So today's budget presentation will go through some of the core budget principles, the department's key changes. You already have heard the CIP, so I think Tracy was able to update this based on this afternoon's discussion. And then we always talk about a checklist in this, and we'll do that again. So I'm going to take a few more slides, and Tracy will take over. Generally, we're staying flat with the fiscal year 2011-12 budget. And that budget included about $8 million in structural reductions, and those are continuing today. The flatness, though, accommodates or accounts for contractual obligations. It also protects our reserves. We're, again, investing in being smarter, hopefully, and that involves our information technology, or IT, as well as our workforce. So we're going to focus on, you'll see a reduction in positions, but we're also trying to focus on having more qualified, better skilled folks doing a lot of the work that you want us to do, and that is analysis, it's looking at performance measurement, et cetera, and also investing in our facilities. The CIP, as you heard this afternoon, has gone up about $1.6 million. And then also investing in our facilities financing plan, we're proposing to put in 7.5 instead of 5, which would have been last year. So Tracy's going to walk us through some of the department's key changes.
Thank you, Dave, Mayor, and Council. We're going to start tonight with the City Council, City Manager, and City Clerk. As Dave requested, those budget levels were maintained at original approved 2012 levels, and the exceptions were also what he said, focusing on our core values. Information technology, we've reprogrammed an additional $1 million to that IT internal service fund to prepare for the ERP and to also...
Say what an ERP is.
Oh, I'm sorry, Enterprise Resource Plan. Gosh. I'm so sorry, Enterprise Resource Planning, so we call that ERP. We're also calling it our new financial system here. It will have all finances, human resources, employees, and more. The funding for the new financial system, that's been set at $3 million. We have the funding for the election costs, that's about $100,000. And we'll have the completion with the IT and City Clerk's Office of a citywide document imaging, which will significantly improve our document imaging system. The city attorney's budget is actually lower than 12, slightly, but even more significant, it's $400,000 lower, or 15.5% lower than the year before, which was 2011. So some significant position cuts there. He's continued on. His full-time equivalents have reduced a net 1.7 positions with this year, and he's still able to fund the program changes and enhancement for business processes, like we've centralized contract preparation. This is a significant improvement for all departments. I can say for my own, it has taken tens and tens, if not hundreds of hours away from my staff. He is centralizing the preparation of those contracts for all city contracts. It's not quite fully implemented, but it's a great improvement and a great customer service asset. He worked on the handbook for the boards and commissions training, and worked with our finance department and city manager on developing administrative policies for the city. Human resources, land maintained at 12 levels. And looking at what Dave was talking about, getting the smarter workforce, these few changes, they have a net result of adding 0.25 of an FTE, but it's requiring a higher skilled level that's going to assist the Human Resources Department in these following initiatives. Human Resources has assumed the public safety recruitment and selection services. Previously, the police department had a full-time position that would help with that. That position no longer exists in police. Human Resources has added that without adding staff. They have payroll business process improvements they're helping with. There's a citywide class and comp study that's going to happen. That's going to be a significant amount of work, not only for the study, but to report back to this council and implement whatever council does approve. We have purchased a new employee performance and evaluation system, again, getting smarter with technology. It's going to significantly improve the way that we give feedback to our employees and the timeliness of that feedback. And again, they're going to be crucial in the implementation of the new financial system, or ERP. My department, we've maintained the 12 budget levels. Those levels have include significant reductions from the early retirement plan all the way through contracting out for various services. I've also been lucky to share internal positions with MAUD, and instead of asking for new positions, we're looking where qualifications can help citywide. I've requested a reclass. We currently have a budget fellow in our department, and I'm asking Dave to reclass that to a business and performance analyst. So it's a net zero FTE changes, but again, this is getting smarter with our workforce. We're going to need that enhanced skills. That position is shared with recreation and the city attorney. So half of that position will help both Laura Detweiler and Aaron Harp, who currently have no financial support in their departments. Other departments have at least one. And many times, they themselves will prepare a lot of their spreadsheets and analysis that they need. So this will really give them the resource that they need so that they can focus on their program highlights. On my side, the other half, I promised the city manager I'd look at the business license program. In working with our business partners on the fee schedule, we get a lot of complaints about various aspects of this program. We're going to streamline it and hopefully bring back a better and a more popular program to you. We're going to be critical in the financial system implementation. I'll probably dedicate 2 people for the long run. GASB's coming out with some significant reporting and disclosure updates that start this June on pension and retiree health. That's going to be a significant amount of staff time. And again, the CPS contract that you approved today, I'll actually be able to reduce that proposed budget by $500,000 because you approved those changes today. Police, their 2012 budget had significant reductions. They had structural changes in that budget of almost $2 million, sorry, Jay, of $2 million. They're maintaining that level. The elimination of the police captain is a cleanup. We added an assistant chief last year, so now we're removing that police captain position and adding a crime prevention specialist. All this while maintaining emergency response times are the highest they've been in years. Jay said at least the last 3 years that he knows of. Crime is at historic lows. It's already down 5.8% year-to-date this year. The successful outsourcing of ABLE.
I would assume the response times are the lowest.
Oh,
yeah,
did I
I'd like
say
to
that?
clarify that, too.
Highest.
Not
I'm
the
sorry.
highest.
Sorry, Jay. It's the lowest in years.
If you guys budget $12 million, I'd expect they'd go.
You're going to see a little increase there. No, I'm kidding. I'm sorry, I misspoke. Crime is also at historic lows. The ABLE dissolution not only freed up about $400,000 a year in operating costs that were then reallocated by the chief to patrol, so that you see these excellent levels, but we'll be getting that one-time infusion of $2.5 million from the sale of all of those assets. And he has committed to continuing to look at outsourcing and shared services such as jail, custody, and dispatch.
Now, the $2.5 million, that's the sale and the reserves that
It's
you'll be
everything.
releasing?
That's
Okay,
the
thank you.
city's share of all of the complete dissolution of the JPA. Fire, they've maintained their 12 budget levels, and they also had significant reductions in 12. They will be eliminating 0.6 of an FTE lifeguard officer this year. Part of their 12 budget reductions reduced a lot of assistant staff, and they have determined that they do need to add one back to provide the support to lifeguards and marine operations. The big change that the new chief has come up with, and working with his 2 assistant chiefs, is they've gone from 10 individual units to 7. He's consolidating and streamlining for cost efficiency and increased support throughout the organization. And 2 other things that I'd like to mention. We worked with the fire department to use restricted general fund reserves that can only be used for certain areas in the fire department, and we were able to increase training budgets and EMS spending. They've also identified money that we get from Santa Ana College that can only be used for training or careers, and he's going to be using that for career development for his fire officers. Community development, again, the leader, they're $500,000 lower than the 12 budget levels. Those 12 budget levels also had cuts of several positions and other operational costs.
With the price of fuel, I don't know, maybe it's double per gallon than a year ago. How does that impact in the city's budget? I mean, you talk about police and fire, there's a lot of vehicles and traffic and so on.
Let me see if Mike Pisani or Mark. Fuel has gone up, and that's a citywide expense budgeted for separately, but I could do, no? No?
We can give you a follow-up response to that,
Okay.
Councilmember Daigle.
We'll come back. Okay. Sorry about that. So, in community development, so the director is continuing to eliminate positions. She's proposing to eliminate 4 positions and adding back 1. This is continued consolidation and streamlining. Some of the program changes that you are all very familiar with is the consolidation of planning, building, and code. She's improved business processes, increased customer service. For instance, 95% of building permits are now completed within 10 days. 80% of those are reviewed over the counter.
Question, this real property administrator that you've added back in, what will that person do?
This person would be in charge of a lot of actually all the leases, any appraisal activity we might have. We used to have this position before. It went away, but we're finding over time that it seems like we do need someone who is a real property expert, and in addition, and encroachments too, to make sure that we're appropriately charging the right rate, consistent with our contracts, with any agreement with for those leases. And I'm always happy to do a cost-benefit analysis of this in the private sector, but to me, it's really important that we have somebody who knows our property in and out like a book, because the city has just boatloads of this, as the committees you serve on have discovered. So that's the intent of this person. Again, appraisal background, contract background, things like that.
Yeah, I'm not questioning the need for that function, that's for sure. I see this as a real value-add opportunity to the city for proactively managing its assets. And so I'd be interested in, sort of the position description there, and my view is to think expansively about the level of expertise that you might be able to attract there. Great.
Councilman Zelich?
Is this a new hire or a transfer of another employee?
We don't have anybody envisioned for this, so this would be a new person coming on board.
And then why is it in community development? Why wouldn't it be in the finance department?
Well, when we looked at it, there's an association with some of the activities of building as well as planning, and we thought that these work together well. You'll find public works issues that pop up, and public works and community development work together closely. So that's, I think, where we saw the skills meeting at best. Dana or Kim, you have any comments to add to that?
If I could just add that our building official has a very strong real estate development background, so we felt that this was a good fit with our current mid-management level to oversee this position. And of course, whoever is ultimately selected for the position will also work closely with finance and public works. So it really is, I think it's well suited for community development, but it certainly is a position that will transcend many departments.
Thank you. And if I could add, too, this is a protection of a significant asset that the city owns, and making sure that we're properly tracking our inventory and valuing it. I was going over the improved business processes, and I don't have to remind this council, but would like to add, with the downsizing and the restructuring and the lower cost, this restructuring received the Orange County Business Council's Award, turning red tape into red carpet. So I think that says a lot for Kim and the city manager. Our mod department utilities budget, as proposed, is $1.3 million lower than the 2012 levels. This was achievable through the personnel changes listed below, a reduction of 5 additional positions. General services has maintained its 12 levels, but those levels include significant cuts from early retirement and several outsourcing opportunities that they have been looking at over the years. These eliminations are also a result of the street sweeping, meter reading, and park maintenance contracts, so the savings is continuing. Program changes, they were able to increase tree reforestation funding. It is now up to $135,000. They are consolidating citywide facilities maintenance to improve customer service and also look for cost efficiencies and reducing the number of contractors we have to issue with. And they're going to be analyzing solid waste and collection and service alternatives.
Before you move on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If Mark could come up, or one of his guys or employees, the tree reforestation, I know we kind of fell behind in that during the lean years, and we have like a backlog. So what's the time frame on that now?
Our backlog, you're absolutely correct. We decreased our tree reforestation budget 2 years ago about $30,000 per year due to budget limitations. We are currently, we have about $200,000 in tree replacements that we are backlogged.
And what do we add every year?
So we're adding this year, we're adding an additional $45,000. So it will take a few years to get that backlog caught up.
So, what's the approximate cost on an annual basis to replace trees?
Well, normally it's $90,000. That's
okay.
been our target every year.
So it's going to take 5 years basically to make up the.
Well, I hope we'll see what it looks like next year and future years. But yeah, it'll take a few years to get that backlog caught up. And we're planting larger trees now. We've gone to that 36-inch box, so they are more costly.
There's a big difference. I saw the trees sitting on the street for the planting on, was it iris?
Right.
And they're good-sized trees.
Yeah, they are. We're getting away from the twigs, for sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Our library department, they're maintaining the 2012 levels, which includes the state takeaways that are now permanent takeaways. They're reclassing one full-time library assistant into two part-time, .48 FTEs, with some cost savings to the city. Some significant program changes. They're able to accommodate the expansion of the central library with existing staff levels. They're adding 18,000 extra square feet with the expansion and an additional entrance that will have to be manned at all times. So they're reorganizing their existing staff, not asking for extra. They're maintaining a full collection at each library. They're going to use the latest technology to ensure that they have high-quality service to their employees, and they're going to increase the use of social media.
I think that should be clarified, because they do not maintain a full collection at each. I mean, they have specials, and I mean, if you go to the Cornell Library, you cannot expect to get anything like what you get at the main library. They have almost no research materials. So, I mean, that's just a misnomer. I know what they mean. There are books there, and there are tapes there, and that sort of thing.
There's a designated collection at each library, and we're maintaining that, but that's probably a better way to say it.
Okay.
Thank you. Recreation. They're maintaining 2012 budget levels, and a point I'd really like to make is their staff levels are the same as they were in 2006, yet their revenue, camps, and programs have doubled, and they're still using those same staff levels. The shared business and performance analyst I talked about, that's with my department and the OCA. That will allow Laura to stop doing financial analysis and help handle the increased workload that her department is handling. But to accommodate this increase in demand, they're asking to reclass a department assistant to a recreation coordinator, and that's going to specifically help Newport Coast Community Center. They're going to reclass 2.90 FTEs into full-time coordinators, and that's specifically to help with the increased demand of contract classes. And, maintaining this budget there, the new Oasis Senior Center, it had increased maintenance costs that they're able to absorb with their existing budget, increase in contract classes, and the increase in revenue is by far much greater than the increase in the contract class consultants that we have to buy or pay for. They have the new Marine Life Protection Act Education Tide Pool program coming up, and they have contracted out the Adult Basketball League for some savings. And finally, Public Works. They've maintained levels. Their 2012 included some position cuts. Unfortunately, they've actually experienced more reduction in staff than they had planned for. They've lost some really well, highly skilled financial people. So they're trying to recruit for one administrative analyst. So they've asked to reclass their public works specialist, again with the theme of getting smarter, ensuring we have the right workforce here to get the work done that you need us to do. The addition of the facilities manager, they haven't decided. We're working with Dave to find out, is this best as a contract position or an in-house position? That will come back to this council with the alternatives. But this council has an amazing facilities financing plan, 30-year plan for the replacement of all major facilities in the city. It's an award winner, as you know. I don't have to tell you that. But there is no similar plan for the maintenance and management of all those facilities.
Last year there was a discussion about transitioning the surveying work to the private sector. Where are we in terms of the city surveying services?
The person in the city's, actually, Dave, why don't you go ahead and take this? You know it better than I do. Rely on my experts here.
We currently have a city surveyor position still, and we're transitioning that out. We thought there's still a high need for that, and we see another year or two on that position, so we're looking to keep that position. Kind of backfilling the real estate side, this position does a lot of the encroachments, the easements for us, any of the maps and things we're processing right now. City real estate work, we use him a lot for that. He's also been backfilling on our inspection side. We're really short on inspection. We have one contractor now. We had a position eliminated. We haven't really filled that yet, so we've got him kind of backfilling.
So are they doing surveying work or something else?
They do all the surveying work, the meets and bounds, the maps. They don't field survey anymore, but there's a lot of office survey that we do. We contract all our field survey now. That's it. Help you?
Okay, thank you. Back to the facilities manager, one thing that both Public Works and Recreation were noticing with the opening of OASIS, as we get these sophisticated new facilities, not to mention our Civic Center that's coming online, they take a lot higher expertise to maintain and keep the systems in running order. And just looking at all facilities throughout the city, this will prevent service disruptions so that you don't have breaks when you don't expect them. Looking for increasing energy efficiencies, and there should be other cost savings because they're going to be on a planned repair or maintenance program to make sure that those facilities meet their useful life that we're expecting in the facilities financing plan. Okay. And that was the last department change. I'll turn it back to Dave.
So,
may I ask one question? You raced through fire quite fast. At the end on fire, you mentioned that they were looking to identify funds from Santa Ana Community College and other agencies for training and these different types of things. Are those ongoing funds, or are those one-time funds that we will then have to deal with on the next fiscal year basis?
I will let the Assistant Chief answer that.
Council, Ralph Receas, Assistant Fire Chief of Operations for Chief Poster. That's an ongoing funds that we've been getting, but we've changed our format of the way we were doing a lot of our training and logging of that, and we're hoping to double or even triple our normal hours that we are reimbursed from the college on that. So that's how we're looking at increasing that capital.
So wrapping up here, you've discussed the CIP already. I think Tracy has updated the slide. So this is what your, let's take a quick look at it. I'm sure it's correct. What your checklist now looks like. Yeah, there's the bottom line, 3.564. So we do include the old Newport Boulevard streetscape, the East Bluff bicycle lane, again a grant match, Bayside Cove Public Walkway. The bid funding are these three elements: Bristol Street South, that's a grant match; Balboa Boulevard landscaping design. I still link in the purchase of the SCE 28, Rule 28 credits, because I think those will go to areas that are involved in neighborhood revitalization. Local coastal program IP is cut in half. Newport Coast monument signs, whatever design you ultimately select, is at $50,000. But there is budget. Streetlight replacement. Lifeguard HQ rehab goes to next year, and then the City Hall interim site improvement goes to $100K, which basically is kind of securing the site, keeping this building operational. So that is what we would present to you for adoption, unless you have any comments or changes. Again, respectful of the afternoon's discussion about bid items.
Councilman, Mayor Pro Tem Curry.
Well, I'd like to congratulate staff for pulling this together. There are 4 metrics that I really think speak to the status of our city budget. The first is the level of our reserves. We started this year with $90+ million of reserves. It's the highest level of reserves in the 106-year history of the city. We did not use reserves in any year during the recession to cover our operating costs. You see so many cities having to cut services or transfer services to other agencies because they've extinguished the reserves. Ours weren't touched. Ours are as strong as they've ever been in our city's history. The second metric is our surplus. The state of California is ending the year with a $16 billion deficit. We're ending it in a $4.4 million surplus. And I really think that speaks well to the quality of the managers in each and every one of our departments. The third metric is our revenue. Our secured property tax, our sales tax, our hotel tax are all back at pre-recession levels because there were investments made in the community and by the private sector and through the general plan to enhance our property tax base, to encourage sales, and to enhance the recreational opportunities in Newport Beach that happened during the recession that have now brought Newport Beach back to its pre-recessionary levels. And the fourth metric is headcount. Our headcount is as low as it's been since the annexation of Newport Coast in 2001. We're doing more services with fewer people. And that is a true management accomplishment that I think everybody ought to be very, very proud of. I know I am. And it's budgets like this that will keep the city strong and financially secure and sustainable going into the future.
Councilman Selich?
Yeah, I tried to follow the city manager's instructions and save my questions for last, or till after the presentation. I only have three, actually. The GASAB changes, is that the thing that's going to require us to start showing the unfunded pension liability?
It
on
is.
our balance sheet?
It comes out in June, and they're going to...
Why don't you remind people what
Oh, I'm sorry. GASB stands for Governmental Accounting Standards Board, and it's a standard, it sets all accounting, financial reporting, and disclosure standards for government agencies. But yes, it will cause us to put our unfunded liability on our balance sheets, and it will cause significant additional disclosures. Of course, they never take other disclosures away, so they just have a propensity to add on, trying to clarify or become more transparent. But we will be required to get a second valuation every year from PERS, and we will have to report on both the funding status, which is the existing standard right now, as well as the new standard, or basically the expected pay standard that GASB is reporting. And they should be following up, most likely the next year, with the same standards for retiree health, or OPEB.
So is it going to be the actuarial value or the market value?
It's going to be the market value that we put on the books. But we'll still have to disclose the actuarial information in the footnotes.
Okay, my second question is on the $2.5 million from ABLE. Is that included in this $4 million surplus for this year, or is it being thrown into next year? Is it thrown into revenue, or where's it going?
We put it into revenue for next year.
Something right. Okay. And then the last question I have is just kind of a general question. I've noticed some cities have gone to 2-year budget cycles. Do you have any comments on that? Good, bad, indifferent?
I'm certainly familiar with other cities doing that, because it's never been the practice here or any jurisdiction I've worked with. I think there are pros and cons. Certainly, you don't see the budget as much, but I think the amount of work is the same, if not more, because we're constantly tracking what we're seeing and doing. Instead of doing it every year, inside a 2-year, you do a mid-session adjustment, which kind of is as robust as adopting the new budget. But, if you're interested in taking a look at that, we could probably think about it and give you more information.
I was just curious, particularly when we were discussing earlier the carry forward on some of the capital improvement projects, how they get carried from one year to the next.
All right.
Okay, thanks.
Is there any public comment on this item?
Mayor Gardner and members of the council, my name is Jim Mosier. Charter Section 1102 requires the city manager to submit to you, the city council, each year, 35 days before July 1st, the budget for the coming year, proposed budget. This slideshow is not, I think, the budget, and I think the lights came on before the last two slides were shown, one of which said questions and had a website address. And I'd like to confirm that the documents on that website address are the actual budget that the city manager is submitting to you for your review and for the public to review. The second question is also related to the city charter. At one of the Finance Committee meetings, I asked a question that I think Councilman Henn found kind of baffling, because it from all these talks and when the thing goes into words, it sounds like we're seeing the budget in exhaustive detail, and the document at this website, there is something called budget detail that I think if printed out would be quite a thick document. There's something called a performance plan and a CIP plan. But in spite of the thickness of it, the budget detail is mostly going over salaries and benefits and things like that. And within each department's budget, there are a couple of items that have an abbreviation after them, NOC. Those are often a very big chunk of the budget. For instance, for the city council segment, a big section is probably the biggest item other than salaries is the special department expenses, NOC. I'd first like to know what NOC stands for, and second, how the public, I assume just like any other budget, if you're preparing a household budget, those estimates of hundreds of thousands of dollars are based on anticipated expenses that you're going to have during the year. And I'm wondering, the question that I asked at the Finance Committee meeting was how the public knows what those projected expenses or items were that went into the NOC. And the significance of that is Charter Section 421, before it gets changed, gives the city manager the authority to contract for services that have been approved by you in the budget. And if we don't know what the details are that went into the projections, very difficult for the public to know if it was some item that you actually did approve or not. Thank you.
Thank you. NOC.
Not otherwise classified.
Thank you.
I just note, the budget has been up on the website. We would kill a lot of trees if we put it out everywhere. It is available at libraries, correct? And the council got copies. I think it's available in the city clerk's office, but we do encourage people to use the website. You know, it is a complex document. It is challenging to read, and that's in part because of the financial system we have. Ours is pretty archaic. It doesn't print out. It doesn't work towards a very the reader-friendly budget that we'd like, which is why we encourage people to read the performance plan and to just ask questions about it. So, thank you.
Okay, and this is a receive and file?
It is, unless you have further guidance. Our goal is to bring this back to you for adoption the first meeting in June instead of the second meeting in June. So we'll get it done a couple of weeks early. If you have items that you are curious about or didn't see on here that you would like to have addressed, please let us know that.
Well, I do have one thing that
Email or otherwise.
at mid-year, I'd like us to when we have an overview of how accurate we are and on target, I'd like us to look at this whole discussion of reserves because, yes, we do. It's great that we have tremendous reserves, but at a certain point, I mean, I don't think that the whole goal of a city is to build up the biggest reserves in the world. And so it might be something that we could look at and see, are there areas where we could take advantage? There might be a dredging issue or something where we might actually want to visit the reserve. So just a discussion, nothing preconceived. All right? All right, we're back to item number 17.
So I was able to locate the contract in question, and it does provide that Costa Mesa is not liable for the costs associated with replacing those trees.
Ever. We don't have a date on it. It doesn't say, and this will be renegotiated in the year 2012.
Yeah, it's actually got an interesting provision as far as termination goes. It says, this agreement shall remain in effect until both parties agree to amend or terminate it, which...
Yeah, I went over this outside with Aaron, and we definitely need to revisit and renegotiate this agreement. It's clearly not drafted in our favor. I mean, it's pretty one-sided, except for the $3,000 or $5,000 a year they're paying us to help maintain those medians. And I mean, I don't know the exact boundaries there, but I'm pretty sure Costa Mesa is all on one side of that street and we're all on the other. And it seems a little lopsided that we're somehow, especially, I mean, maybe there was a reason for it. Maybe we wanted to keep the eucalyptus trees at the time, which probably in hindsight was a bad idea. But now the eucalyptus trees are gone. There's really no reason why, we should be on the hook to maintain those medians in perpetuity. So I don't think it needs to be done tomorrow, but certainly I'd put it on your work plan to get in touch with your counterpart over there and discuss renegotiating that agreement.
Councilman Hill?
And then I would ask my question again, if they were required to split the cost of maintenance, should they not have been required to share in the cost of removal of the trees?
No, if you read the agreement, it basically says that we're on the hook for removal and replacement, any extraordinary expense. And so, yeah, I'm satisfied that we are obligated to do it. It just seems like we need to get out of that obligation in the future.
All right, so you're not,
I'll move the item.
All right. Is there a second?
Did we pick a palm tree?
Yes, the date palm.
Okay.
Second.
Yeah.
We already had
We
public
did have
comment on
public
this.
comment. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Please vote.
Motion carries unanimously.
All right, a motion for reconsideration.
A motion to reconsider the vote on any action taken by this City Council, either this meeting or the previous meeting, may only be made by one of the council members who voted for the prevailing side.
Is there a motion for reconsideration? No. Well, we're closing this meeting in memory of two individuals. The first, Marina Morelli, was a planner in the city's Community Development Department who passed away on May 3rd following a brave battle with cancer. Marina was born in Los Angeles and raised in Hermosa Beach. She attended UC Santa Barbara, but left to work at Western Airlines as a secretary in its PR department. After marrying and raising her two daughters, Marina returned to college and received a degree in environmental science at UCI. She started her career with the city as an intern and wound up staying here full-time for 17 years. She was a respected and much-loved member of our staff. Marina chose to work in one of the most customer service-driven planning assignments at the public counter, providing plan check services for our customers. For those who had the privilege of working with and alongside Marina, her vibrant smile and cooperative spirit will be long remembered. Marina loved going to art house movies, lunchtime walks around Lido Isle, and being the first to discover a new restaurant. Marina is survived by her daughters Marilena Visser and Adriana Morelli, sister Lenore and Tom Welburn, niece Katie, Henn, and extended family, friends, and co-workers. Memories of Marina, and possibly of a certain stuffed rat, will travel with the Community Development Department to the new Civic Center. Services have been held. And now, Mayor Pro Tem Curry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to have us also adjourn tonight in the memory of someone who was a friend to me and to many of us, and that is Tom Fuentes. Tom walked his first precinct as a Republican volunteer at 1960 at age 12, moving in 1962 with his family to Orange County, where he worked in the Nixon for Governor campaign and was president of the Teenage Republicans at Bolsa Grande High School in Garden Grove. He came to know Walter Knott and became active in Republican politics in 1964, working for Barry Goldwater and George Murphy, and later in 1966 for Ronald Reagan when he was running for governor. He was president of the College Republicans at Santa Ana College and twice elected student body president. He went to work for Supervisor Ron Kaspers, rising to the position of the supervisor's chief of staff. In 1972, he was appointed to a vacancy on the Republican Central Committee of Orange County, where he served as treasurer, then later moving up as second vice chairman, first vice chairman, and later a 20-year run as chairman of the Orange County Republican Party, which time the party experienced substantial growth throughout the county and became a national model for county political organizations. President Reagan appointed Tom to the California Appeals Board of the United States Selective Service System, and President Bush appointed him to the board of directors of 3 savings and loans administered by the Federal Home Loan Bank of Washington, D.C. He spoke as chairman of the International Republican Institute in Nicaragua, Colombia, and Korea. He was a member of the board of directors for Eagle Publishing, senior fellow on the board of directors at the Claremont Institute, the premier conservative think tank in the western United States. Tom was known for always hosting some great parties on the outside part of the Balboa Bay Club. I kidded him that they named the bar for John Wayne, they should name the deck for him, because of all the great events, usually involving cigars, that he put on there. He was always active and involved in Newport Beach. He was a great political leader for our county, and we will all miss him. Thank you.
This meeting is adjourned.